Chapter 503. When they arrived at Jiang Xiu's courtyard, the courtyard door was still tightly shut. It was quiet inside. In this Jiang residence, it was so unique. Everyone was rejected outside, as if it was high and mighty. Go knock on the door for me. This time, Jiang Chonghai personally gave the order. Open the door, open the door. The knocking on the door was hurried and violent. Xiaoye heard the sound and quickly ran over. As soon as the door opened, it was forcefully pushed open. What entered her eyes was a group of people from the Jiang family. There were about 20 to 30 people. It could be said that the ostentation was not small. What's wrong with your family's young master? He still hasn't come out. Do you want our whole family to wait for him alone? Quickly call him out for me. Xiaoye said awkwardly. Master, the young master is still in seclusion in the room. We've already called him, but there's no response. It's probably because he hasn't finished cultivating yet. Call him out even if he hasn't finished. Do you want your young master to delay today's matters? Xiaoye was also anxious. It was indeed not early. Master, please wait. This servant will go now. On the side, Jiang Haoshuan said impatiently, Hurry up, we won't wait if you're late. As he spoke, he glanced at the red line on the ground. Jiang Xiu had once said that no one was allowed to enter. This father really didn't believe in heresy today. He directly stepped over and said rudely, This young master will personally call him out. Jiang Haoshuan walked in. Elder Du, who was on the side, was afraid that he would be at a disadvantage, so he followed in. Then, the others all followed in one after another. Using today's opportunity, they completely trampled on the rules that Jiang Xiu had set on their heads. Everyone. Xiaoye was extremely nervous. The young master was currently cultivating. If his mind was disturbed at a critical moment, it could easily cause his realm to become unstable and even drop. It's fine if this servant comes. Li Chong was completely confused at this time. Seeing this, Wang Xinya hurriedly ran to open the door of Jiang Xiu's room and closed it immediately. She glanced inside but didn't see Jiang Xiu. She called out nervously, Young master, young master. However, she saw that Jiang Xiu was in the bedroom, sitting cross-legged in meditation. The young master's bedroom could only be entered by maidservants. She was just an ordinary maidservant. Moreover, she was going to marry out in the future. To her, this was a forbidden area. She hurriedly knelt in front of him and raised her voice. Young master, master, the other young masters and young ladies are all here. Today is the day of Qianqing School's enrollment. Wake up quickly. Jiang Xiu's face alternated between green and white. At the most critical moment of his breakthrough, his mind was disturbed. With a bang, the door was pushed open and the Jiang family rushed in. Fourth brother, what's wrong with you? The Qianqing School's enrollment is about to begin. If you don't want to go, you should let us know. Don't let the whole family wait for you. Jiang Xiu slowly opened his eyes. His expression was terrifyingly cold. The reminder was fake. The real reason was that they deliberately rushed in to disturb his cultivation. He opened his mouth and said coldly, Get out. Seeing that Jiang Xiu's face was pale, Jiang Haochuan couldn't help but sneer. His blood rushed in the opposite direction. He had achieved his goal. Fourth brother, hurry up. We'll wait outside. After these people left, Jiang Xiu's face became even paler. He stood up. Wang Xinya was guarding the line at the door of the bedroom and didn't dare to cross it. She just looked at Jiang Xiu nervously. When Jiang Xiu walked to her, Feng Gang tried to reach out to help Jiang Xiu. Young master, are you okay? Jiang Xiu gently shook his head. He freshened up a little with Wang Xinya's help and walked out of the room. The sun was shining brightly outside. The Jiang family was all waiting in his courtyard. Okay, we're finally out. Let's go. The master of the Jiang family sat in the carriage. The guards rode the horse and headed towards Sifong Lingtai Mountain. Even Madame Jiang was going today. A mere earth god dares to participate in the Qianqing School's assessment. He's not afraid of losing face, but our Zhang family is. Zhang Xiu's face was also cold. He only realized this after he came out with Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu was using the reputation of the Zhang family. Originally, he couldn't wait for Zhang Xiu to go on stage and embarrass himself. Now, he had mixed feelings. He wanted to embarrass Zhang Xiu, but he also wanted to protect the reputation of the Zhang family. It seems that his blood and qi rushed in just now, causing his realm to become unstable. Elder Du said, "Indeed. He couldn't do it in the first place. Now that he's so seriously injured, he definitely won't have a chance." Jiang Chonghai said, "Okay, let's not talk about him. How are your preparations?" "Father, we're all ready." Jiang Chonghai looked at his children, his eyes full of anticipation and excitement. So far, only Imperial Grandson Yank has barely won. Now, it's not only about entering Tianqing School, but also about the reputation of our Jialan dynasty. His Majesty's face has turned green these days. Even if we can't win, we'll hold on for as long as we can. Yes. His children agreed one after another. Their faces were full of anticipation and their eyes were shining. They always felt that they might be the lucky one who stood out from the rest. Soon, the Zhang family arrived at Sifong Lingtai Mountain. It would be a bit slow to ascend here. The group all cast spells and flew up the mountain. Some rode on flying swords. Zhang Xiu looked up and saw that the mountain was very lively. From time to time, there were sword immortals and unaffiliated cultivators flying around. Lu Chongkong had made the right choice in choosing this place. Here he could be free and unrestrained. If this was arranged in the palace, there would be a search in and out, and many people would be stopped outside. After entering the open space of the temple hall, there were servants from Tianqing School registering. Only those with relevant household registration could register. Zhang Xiu was with the Zhang family. There were a total of 21 people from the Zhang family who had registered. When Zhang Xiu arrived, they had all finished registering. You just need to fill in your name, age, and realm. Zhang Xiu obviously didn't know that servant. He also didn't know Zhang Xiu. He had probably never seen the original Tianqing School principal Zhang Luoxia in his life. Zhang Xiu, age 24, realm, early stage lower god. That person looked up at Zhang Xiu in astonishment. "You're a divine cultivator?" "Yes." At the side, Li Chang and the two maidservants became nervous. Could it be that the young master's qualifications were revoked just because he was a god cultivator? The Sky Motion sect was a cultivation sect, so they didn't know whether or not they accepted god cultivators. "You can go. Our Tianqing School doesn't accept divine cultivators." Sure enough, Li Chang and the maid's expressions all changed. Zhang Xiu, however, was calm and composed. "What right do you have to ask me to go?" Whoosh! Hearing this, the surrounding people were in an uproar. He dared to go against the immortal of Tianqing School. The servant was also stunned, and his face turned green and white. He indeed didn't have the right. He was just a servant. In Tianqing School, he was very lowly. It was just that when he left the mountain gate, everyone was respectful and flattering, which made him arrogant. He really thought that he had become some kind of immortal. I said no, so no. He didn't want to lose face, so he stubbornly held on. Zhang Xiu said, "Tianqing School has never banned divine cultivators from accepting disciples. Could it be that you are the founder of Tianqing School and want to help Tianqing School change the rules?" Zhang Xiu's sect master's power was so frightening, and his words were so sharp that the servant's face turned pale. "However, you're not worthy. If you insist on not helping me register, then I'll go ask Lu Chongkong when you became the sect master." Clang! The servant was so scared that he almost fell from his seat. He had never seen someone as domineering as Zhang Xiu. Even the Emperor of Kalan was very polite when he saw him. It's not that it's impossible. It's just that my sect doesn't have many divine cultivation-related techniques. I'm afraid that even if you enter the sect, it won't be easy for you to develop. I'm afraid that it will delay you." Zhang Xiu sneered, Then I'll have to thank you. Hurry up and register. Of course, there were divine cultivators in Tianqing School. This was passed down from their ancestors. However, just like the entire immortal martial continent, the divine cultivators of the human race had declined, and the Tianqing School could not save them. Over time, everyone thought that there were no divine cultivators in Tianqing School. In fact, they existed, and their number was no less than that of white people. They occupied a peak alone. Because of the different cultivation systems, they faded out of sight. I've helped you register. Early stage lower heavenly god, right? That's the same as early stage lower heavenly immortal. After saying that, he handed Zhang Xiu a token. Li Chong and the servant girls all heaved a sigh of relief. Not far away, a young girl stood, looking at everything with a strange expression. It was Shangguan Zhaorong who had left. Chapter 504. Between the peaks of the four-sided Ling Tai Mountain, there were many floating peaks. The entrance examinations for each level were held there. Each floating peak was guarded by a disciple of the Tianqing School of a level, accepting challenges from all sides. As long as one won, they would have the opportunity to meet Lu Chongkong. So far, the only winner was the imperial grandson, Shui Yank. Even if he entered the encirclement and met Lu Chongkong, he might not necessarily be chosen. Xinya, I see Sister Zhaorong. She's here too. Is that so? Wang Xinya turned her head and saw Shangguan Zhaorong walking towards their resting area. Although the Shangguan family was in trouble, the two young masters of the Yi family and the Dugu family were still thinking about her. She also had some old friends, so it wouldn't be difficult for her to come here. It really is Sister Zhaorong. Young master. Shangguan Zhaorong bowed to Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu was her previous owner. It was fine if she didn't meet him, but if she didn't greet him, it would be impolite. There's no need for that. Since you're already free, you have nothing to do with me. You don't have to bow when you see me. Zhang Xiu glanced at her indifferently and shifted his gaze to the contest on the floating peak. He wanted to see if he knew those disciples. Unfortunately, other than his own disciples, Zhang Xiu didn't know much about the other disciples of the Sky Motion sect. However, he couldn't be blamed. After all, it was impossible for the boss of a big company to know the workers on the production line. Shangguan Zhaorong saw that Zhang Xiu was still cold to her and felt a little unnatural. She said, "Young master's appearance seems to have changed a lot. It seems that you've had a change in circumstances." Zhang Xiu asked, "You're looking for me for something?" Shangguan Zhaorong pondered for a moment, then said, "It's nothing. I'm just grateful for young master's kindness, so I came to catch up. I don't know if I've disturbed young master's mood." Zhang Xiu had no interest in someone who had left him. He. The Zhang family's resting area was specially chosen on a floating peak that was closer to their family members. This group consisted of Upper Earth immortals, and Zhang Haochuan was in this group. Originally, Zhang Xiu should have been in this group as well. "My turn," Zhang Haochuan asked when he saw that the Tianqing School had won again. His face was not as calm and arrogant as it was at home. His face was pale and he looked nervous. "Yes, it's your turn." Everyone in the Zhang family focused their attention on him. Many people waved their fists at him and cheered for him. The Zhang family's first shot must be fired. It would be good if they won. Even if they couldn't win, they must show the glory of the Zhang family. So fast. He was very clear about his own capabilities. It was just like an examinee going to the examination hall. Whether he was confident or not was something that could be seen at a glance. If you studied well and prepared well, you would be able to be calm before the examination. Otherwise, you would become very nervous. "I haven't observed enough of the opponent's strength yet." Everyone was muttering in their hearts at first, but after hearing Zhang Haochuan's words, they suddenly felt that it was very reasonable. Only by knowing oneself and the enemy could one win 100 battles. Indeed, they had to go on the stage as soon as they arrived. Without time to observe the opponent, they would be at a disadvantage. Zhang Haoxuan looked at Zhang Xiu. Lao Si, you go first. It's time to win glory for the Zhang family. Yes, Lao Si, you go first. Fourth young master, it's up to you. Old Madame Du said, Lao Si, I don't expect you to win, but you must do your best to fight for more time. You must also fight for the opponent to use his full strength and lay a solid foundation for your third brother's victory. Don't worry, if your third brother enters the Qianqing school, the family will not treat you badly. Zhang Chonghai also looked at Zhang Xiu. He also hoped that Zhang Xiu would go first and help his son get a good feel of the situation. He said, Your grandmother is right. If your third brother succeeds, the family will not treat you badly. Becoming a disciple of the Qianqing school was like a carp leaping over the dragon gate. The entire Jialan dynasty would look at the Zhang family in a new light. Becoming a marquis was just around the corner. When that time came, would they still have to worry about not being able to get resources? On the side, Li Chong and the two servant girls were indignant. Why did their young master have to go first? Could it be that they couldn't let the third young master go first and scout for their young master? No matter how they looked at it, their young master was much stronger than the third young master. But they were just servants. How could they have the right to speak? Zhang Xiu's indifferent gaze swept over. I can't go on the stage. The opponent won't let me go either. Why? However, when it was his turn, the Zhang family didn't mention who the Zhang family was. On this point, the Qianqing school allowed the Zhang family to adjust themselves internally. You're not willing, right? Zhang Xiu said, It's all the same. Whether I'm unwilling or have no choice, in short, even if I go down, the disciples of the Qianqing school won't fight with me because I'm not in this group. Li Chong and the two servant girls' eyes suddenly lit up. The fat servant girl almost cried out. Yes, the young master had advanced. What happened that day was true. The young master was at the divine realm, not some earth god. I'm in the lesser divine realm group. What? When the Zhang family heard this, their expressions all changed. They widened their eyes in disbelief. How long had it been? It had only been a month, right? He really advanced. Li Chong and the two servant girls saw old Madame Jiang, old Du, Zhang Chonghai, Zhang Haoxuan, and the others' dumbfounded expressions. It was as if they had seen a ghost. Who told you to look down on people? Old Madame Jiang said, Old Fourth, the opponent is the Qianqing school. This can't be faked. If it's discovered, no one can save you. She absolutely did not believe that Zhang Xiu could advance to the divine realm in a short month. However, who would be so stupid to challenge a higher level? Even if it was fake, it would be at the earth level. Humph. Zhang Xiu no longer paid attention to this family. Is there anyone from the Zhang family going to fight? If not, we'll go to the next round. The disciples of the Qianqing school asked. Yes, yes, yes. Zhang Haochuan hurriedly stood up and flew towards the floating peak. After landing, he bowed to his opponent. The Zhang family servants on the sidelines all shouted, Third young master, you can do it. The ignorant servant girl Xiao Yu asked, Will the third young master win? Zhang Xiu could not help but laugh. Ignorant and stupid to the extreme. Even a trash like Zhang Haochuan could win against a disciple of the Qianqing school. This disciple should just find a latrine pit and drown himself. Shangguan Zhao Rong secretly glanced at Zhang Xiu, her face revealing a thoughtful expression. It had not even been a month since she left the Zhang family, and Zhang Xiu had actually crossed the heaven-level barrier and become a divine realm expert. This person's talent was truly monstrous, but why did he choose to become a divine cultivator? Suddenly, there was a scream. Shangguan Zhao Rong turned to look at the field and could not help but widen her eyes. She saw Zhang Haochuan fly out and fall to the ground, wailing in pain. He had already lost. This was too fast. She only glanced at Zhang Xiu, and he was defeated in such a short time. It was really in the blink of an eye. Lost, we lost? The people of the Zhang family were depressed. They felt their cheeks burning. They had seen people lose quickly, but they had never seen someone lose so quickly. They lost in seconds. They felt that the eyes of the people around them were full of ridicule and mockery. The old lady and Zhang Chonghai really wanted to find a hole to hide in. One must know that the emperor and the others were sitting on the main peak in the distance. They must have seen this scene. This time, the Zhang family really lost all face. It hurts, it hurts. Zhang Chonghai was so angry that the corners of his mouth were twitching. What a disgrace. Sorry to offend you. The disciple of the Qianqing school bowed slightly to Zhang Haochuan. It was also the first time he had seen someone cry out in pain after losing. These rich people, Sai, the Zhang family's early-stage lower divine realm group. Originally, there was an elder brother, but that brother had passed the age limit. It's my turn. Zhang Xiu stood up from his seat. Li Chong and the two servant girls looked at him nervously. This battle was also related to their future and fate. Zhang Xiu's silhouette flashed and flew towards the floating peak. Young master, do your best. Old Madame Zhang fiercely glared over and said, What are you doing your best for? Haven't you lost enough face? The two servant girls lowered their heads in fright. Old Do you think Old Fourth can win? He had seen Zhang Xiu's intelligence. His intelligence was close to that of a demon. To be honest, if Zhang Xiu personally fought and had that kind of insight, he really would have a chance. But today, Zhang Xiu had suffered heavy internal injuries because of cultivation. His strength would be greatly reduced, and it might even cause his internal injuries to erupt. Old Du shook his head and said, Impossible. Chapter 505. As soon as Zhang Xiu stepped onto the stage, Emperor Shui Shangjing, who was sitting in the direction of the main peak, was attracted to him. Although Zhang Xiu's appearance had changed a little, the general feeling was still there. Moreover, he did not recognize Zhang Xiu based on his appearance. The fourth son of the Zhang family was young Master Zhang, whom he had arranged to stay with the Zhang family. He's here too. Shui Shangjing smiled coldly. In his opinion, the only person in the entire Jialan dynasty who was qualified to enter Qianqing school was his grandson. He did not want a second one. If there was, it had to be a descendant of the royal family. Otherwise, he would not be able to let his grandson dominate the scene. Everyone had vanity. As the emperor, Shui Shangjing was no exception. He cared about his face and loved ostentation. Meanwhile, Lu Chongkong, who was resting with his eyes closed in the temple, also opened his eyes at this time. He felt that the aura of this disciple who had just appeared was somewhat familiar. Although he seemed indifferent to the outside world, in fact, no one who appeared could escape his eyes. However, whether the aura was familiar or not was only a feeling. Unless he was very familiar with it, he would not be able to recognize it. He stood up, walked through the door, and stood in front of the eaves. His gaze passed through the layers of obstacles and landed on Zhang Xiu. His eyes suddenly widened, and he was extremely shocked. For the first time, he lost his composure. Sect Master Zhang. No, that's not right. Huh. It should be that the person is similar. In the great wide world, there are even people who look exactly the same, let alone people who look alike. Lu Chongkong's gaze was fixed on Zhang Xiu. They don't look alike, but their aura is too similar. He's actually a god cultivator. Then it's really impossible. However, Zhang Xiu still piqued Lu Chongkong's interest. A person who had Zhang Luoxia's arrogance and cold eyes. Even if his talent was not as good as Zhang Luoxia's, he might still have Zhang Luoxia's spirit. Advance bravely, cut through all obstacles. Who else can do it but me? Zhang Xiu looked at the Qianqing school disciple in front of him and couldn't help but find it funny. The dignified Qianqing school overseer actually had to face such a lowly disciple and say, "You're no match for me." That disciple was stunned for a moment. He had been standing here for 7 or 8 days and had defeated hundreds and thousands of people. Which one of them didn't come up to the stage with respect and caution? This was the first time he had met such an arrogant person. Haha, you are very confident. Zhang Xiu smiled coldly. He was too familiar with the methods of Qianqing school, let alone these little guys. It was no exaggeration to say that when they raised their butts, Zhang Xiu knew what they were going to fart. It's not too late to admit defeat. Facing the people from Tianqing School, Zhang Xiu felt an inexplicable anger. The overseer didn't recognize him when he was right in front of him. He deserved to be beaten. In Zhang Xiu's heart, of course, he was still brooding about losing the position of overseer. That position carried the dreams of his master and countless of his fellow disciples. It was lost just like that, and the reason behind it was also fishy. The 60-year deadline was not up yet, but they actually stripped him of the position of overseer in the name of his death. This was actually treason. If they wanted to replace him as overseer early, more than half of the law enforcement elders would have to agree. Moreover, these law enforcement elders had a close relationship with him. He had to find out how this happened and how many people had betrayed him. This anger was also directed to these disciples. Admit defeat? I think you're too arrogant. Take this. This was also the first time he took the initiative to attack. Zhang Xiu saw that he was using the sky-traversing 9 hidden sword technique. This sword technique was the Tianqing School's intermediate-level sword technique. It was not bad, but in the eyes of overseer, it was really not enough to get started. Moreover, there were many problems in practicing it. Zhang Xiu really wanted to ask who his master was. Before he could use the sword technique, Zhang Xiu had already slashed with his saber. The restriction of using the saber after the sword technique, and it happened to be the time when overseer used the sword technique, made it very awkward for him to use it and change his moves. Lu Chongkong was shocked. What a sharp insight. There was a kind of person who was born as a genius in immortal martial arts. This kind of genius was not only reflected in the speed of cultivation, but also in the ability to deal with the enemy, predict the timing of the attack, and the direction of the attack. Even if masters did not use their strength, why could they easily defeat people weaker than them? This was the ability. For a true genius, not only was the speed of cultivation important, but the ability to deal with the enemy was even more important. Lu Chongkong did not know how fast Zhang Xiu's cultivation was, but his sensitivity in dealing with the enemy surprised him. Unknowingly, he had already crowned Zhang Xiu with the word genius. His opponent still used the sword technique. Lu Chongkong shook his head and felt somewhat disappointed with his disciple's response. He had already lost the initiative. If he used force, he would only continue to make mistakes. Moreover, if he used the sword technique forcefully, he would not be able to fully release its power. The sword technique was suppressed by the saber light, and the feeling was unbearable. It was like constipation. Before the power could be released, it was suppressed back. Suddenly, the uncomfortable feeling that was pressing down on him lightened. Looking up, Zhang Xiu's face revealed a strange expression, and his complexion turned pale. This was Lu Chongkong, who had been through hundreds of battles, knew that Zhang Xiu's body was injured and had been triggered. Zhang Xiu frowned. Once he used his divine power, the power in his body would surge uncontrollably. When one's cultivation was interrupted, one's qi and blood would surge in the opposite direction. This was a big taboo. Before one's cultivation was organized, it would definitely cause great damage. It might even leave behind indelible sequelae. And all of this was because of the Zhang family. You seem to have a problem with your cultivation. Zhang Xiu snorted. It's more than enough to deal with you. Don't try to show off. Your condition is very serious. If you fight with me again, your cultivation level will become unstable. It will be difficult for you to regain your cultivation level after dropping from the heaven tier. Lu Chongkong could also see that. He was very curious about what Zhang Xiu would choose. If he insisted on fighting, regardless of whether he won or lost, he could almost foresee that his cultivation level would drop. Cut the crap! The hair on Zhang Xiu's body stood up. With a loud bang, the power in his body burst forth. He wanted to end this quickly. For a moment, his long hair flew up and his clothes fluttered. The demeanor of a powerful expert was on full display. This, Lu Chongkong couldn't help but take a step forward. This aura, this tone, this expression, He seemed to have seen the monstrous Zhang Luoxia who ruled the world. If the person in front of him wasn't a divine cultivator and a saber cultivator, Lu Chongkong would almost dare to say that he was Zhang Luoxia. Are there really two people who are so alike? Violent power surged. The power in Zhang Xiu's body surged even more. It was difficult for him to control himself. His demonic state was on full display. Die! He swung the saber in his hand. Rip! Countless streaks of light shot out from the blade of the saber. The man was shocked. This power was like a stormy sea, pouring over him like thousands of rivers and seas. He almost collapsed to the ground under the pressure. He was shocked by Zhang Xiu's saber technique, but Zhang Xiu's power was weaker than his. Zhang Xiu had just entered the early stage of Lower Celestial God, while his opponent had been stuck in the early stage of Lower Celestial Immortal for many years and was about to break through. Moreover, Zhang Xiu had never refined his divine power in order to improve his cultivation level. As a result, the purity of his divine power was slightly lacking. His aura and determination are both amazing. Lu Chongkong once again felt Zhang Luoxia's shadow in him. Under such circumstances, even if it were him, it would be difficult for him to choose. If he gave up the fight to preserve his cultivation level, he would lose the opportunity to enter Chenqing School. However, if he insisted on fighting, it would be good if he won, but what if he lost? For a slim chance, he dared to sacrifice so much. Lu Chongkong asked himself if he had the courage to do so. Crazy! Lu Chongkong spat out a word. In the arena, Zhang Xiu's eyes kept flashing. Lose! Boom, boom, boom. A violent force burst out uncontrollably. On the floating peak, the rocks were blasted apart. Just by making a move, the saber aura wreaked havoc in the surroundings. This would undoubtedly weaken the power of the saber move. There was only one explanation for this situation. Zhang Xiu could not control his own power. The saber technique had gone out of control. Pooh! Zhang Xiu spat out a mouthful of blood. The saber aura slashed down fiercely. Die! The disciple on the opposite side was so frightened by Zhang Xiu's ferocity that his eyes widened. That strong murderous aura made his heart tremble involuntarily. Boom, boom, boom. Chapter 506. When the saber aura erupted to its peak, it did not slash everything. Instead, it collapsed at that moment, just like when a wave swept up to the highest altitude, it lost all support and collapsed from the sky. Scattered, it collapsed into nothingness. The saber aura that had dissipated seemed to be shocking, but it had no lethality. The power in Zhang Xiu's body could not be sustained. There was no other way. No matter how strong a person was, they could not withstand the reverse flow of blood and qi. His realm was very unstable. Zhang Xiu even felt his soul shrinking and his body trembling. His realm was about to drop. How painful was it to fall in realm? Many people gambled and won all night, but in the end, they lost everything. This was the feeling. In an instant, many years of hard work had gone down the drain. The blow to the body and mind was unimaginable. Zhang Xiu had been rampant all his life, but he had never encountered a situation like this. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on him. He had lost completely. Not only had he lost the competition, but he had also lost his economy. He had fallen from sky god to earth god. Ha ha ha, this fool. He knew that his blood and qi were in reverse flow, but he still forced himself to attack. Serves him right. Zhang Haochuan, who had just cried out in pain, was now happier than anyone else. Zhang Xiu was unlucky, and he felt as if he had won. You brought this upon yourself. Grandma Zhang on the side echoed. It will be difficult to cultivate back after falling in realm. I'm afraid that the fourth young master's cultivation path will be cut off from now on. Old man Du looked very regretful. After all, Zhang Xiu's first saber strike had once again shocked him. He did not know if his regret was real or fake for such a genius to fall. Originally, that saber strike was a bit interesting, but unfortunately. The Kalan Emperor on the main peak said, "Yes, For immortal cultivators, the heaviest blow is to fall in realm. Moreover, it is a major realm drop. It is very likely that he will be punished by the heavens and cut off from his cultivation path, Shui Yank, the imperial grandson, said. His status was now different. He could directly step over the princes and stand beside the emperor as the imperial grandson. Young master. The two maidservants were about to cry. Li Chong's expression was also incomparably dignified. Shangguan Zhao Rong gently covered her mouth. He had lost the bet. The battle here had attracted a lot of attention. Seeing Zhang Xiu's experience, some sympathized with him, some laughed at him for overestimating himself, and some took pleasure in his misfortune. Lu Chongkong let out a long sigh of relief. At that moment, he actually hoped that Zhang Xiu would succeed. Unfortunately, he was not a top genius like Zhang Luoxia. Since he was not, and his cultivation level had dropped, then he had no fate with Tianqing School. If it was an immortal cultivator, Lu Chongkong would have considered it. However, the other party was a god cultivator. Lu Chongkong did not know many god cultivation techniques, so he could not help him at all. He also could not help him solve the problem of his realm. Wrong fate. This was a sentence that experts would often say when taking in disciples. Missing out on fate was a kind of affirmation to the person seeking a master, but it was also an obvious and firm rejection. Of course, some of them felt sorry for Zhang Xiu, but most of them were disappointed. Tianqing School's disciples had to do things that ordinary people could not do. Otherwise, they would not be qualified to enter Tianqing School. You lost. That person no longer felt a trace of pressure. The blade light above his head was gone. He had won without standing, but there was no contempt in his eyes when he looked at Zhang Xiu. Lost. Zhang Xiu's face was pale, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. It's too early for you to be happy. After saying that, Zhang Xiu sat down cross-legged, reached out, and took a pill. No one knew what kind of pill it was, and began to meditate and adjust his breath. What does he want to do? Does he want to consolidate his realm on the spot? Everyone's faces were full of suspicion. However, if he wanted to consolidate his realm, it would take at least a few months or even a few years. Zhang Haoshuan said, even if you want to consolidate your realm, you have to get down from the arena and go back to your home to slowly consolidate it. Do you want everyone to watch you consolidate your realm? Who does he think he is? Does the whole world revolve around him? He shouted, law enforcement judge, we can't let him consolidate his realm on the spot. We should drive him away. There are still so many of us waiting to participate in the selection. The servant who was reprimanded by Zhang Xiu just now was also one of the law enforcement officers. Seeing this situation, he immediately stood up and said, do you need me to go over and drive him away? Just now, he was reprimanded in front of so many people. Now, he finally had a chance to take revenge. However, at this moment, a strange phenomenon suddenly appeared in the sky. The sky was clear for thousands of miles, and clouds rolled over. It felt as if time was passing quickly. At the same time, a huge cloud vortex formed in the sky. Under the sunlight, the clouds appeared to be fiery red. It was a rare fiery cloud. This, Lu Chongkong's eyes changed. He thought of a possibility, and his face became filled with disbelief. Boom! The fiery clouds in the sky suddenly poured into Zhang Xiu's body. He was like the core of the cloud vortex. For a moment, the wind whistled in a few hundred meters around him. The red clouds filled the sky, and the entire world was illuminated in a fiery red color. How is this possible? He can't even withstand the sword light. How can he trigger such a huge phenomenon? Soon, Zhang Xiu was enveloped by the fiery cloud vortex. Could it be? The Kalan Emperor couldn't help but slowly stand up from his seat. He couldn't believe it. This is trying to comprehend the law while breaking through his current realm. Not only is he not consolidating his realm, but he's also trying to break through? Shui Shengjing couldn't believe it. This was too crazy, too unbelievable. What? Shui Yank, who was beside him, suddenly looked at her grandfather. How is this possible? This is impossible. He will destroy himself if he does this. This scene shocked everyone. Impossible, impossible. Within the fiery clouds, Jiang Xiu's aura condensed again and continued to rise. It was like the fiery clouds outside were gathering more and more. In the end, it soared into the sky and engulfed the entire sky. There was no way to imagine that a person whose realm was unstable and was about to fall would actually pry into the heavenly fire law and use the power of the heavens to forcefully break through to the next realm. It's impossible for him to succeed. Wishful thinking. Arrogant to the extreme. Many people expressed great anger towards Jiang Xiu's actions. At this moment, an earth-shattering roar suddenly came from the fiery clouds. This roar was very low at first, but towards the end, it was like a rock soaring into the sky. The sound shook hundreds of miles, and the aura swallowed tens of thousands of miles like a tiger. The entire Four Directions Spirit Mountain shook because of this, and the rocks and gravel under the floating peaks fell one after another. No, this doesn't make sense. Grandma Jiang cried out involuntarily. Everyone in the Jiang family was completely stunned at this moment. Li Chong was so shocked that his eyes were about to explode. The two little girls were so excited that they were about to cry. I told you, it's too early for you to be happy. Suddenly, an incomparably sharp silver blade light shone out from within the fiery clouds. An incomparably bright figure flashed out from within, and his terrifying eyes carried a cold light that looked disdainfully at the world. Take another blade of mine. Boom! The blade light tore through the sky, and the air was like a thin thread that was cut inch by inch as it slashed down from the sky. How is this possible? His opponent was completely stunned at this moment. At this moment, Jiang Xiu's aura was like a rainbow. His hair was flying like flames on top of his head, and his clothes were fluttering in the wind. The blade light was about to crush heaven and earth. Strong, crazy, and demonic. At this moment, he was so scared that his liver and guts were torn apart. How could he still have the courage to fight? A sense of powerlessness arose in his heart. Rumble, rumble. He really broke through, and under such difficult circumstances at that, and in an instant. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was already a middle-stage lower heavenly god. Zhang Haochuan stared blankly at the godlike man in the field. He actually did it. Not only did he do it, but he also rose from the earth god to the middle-stage lower heavenly god in the short span of a month. His current realm was already the same as his. This kind of speed was unparalleled in the world. He lowered his head in shame and said, "Father, you're right. Fourth brother is such a peerless genius. We should put all of the family's resources on him." Zhang Chonghai was dumbfounded. "Put your sister, do you think I want to?" Grandma Jiang was completely stunned. Her face turned green and white. She had lost the 3-month agreement. Chapter 507. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was like a saber. Wherever the saber went, there was nothing it could not overcome. No one could describe this moment. The power of this saber, under this momentum, could only bow down. Grandma Jiang stood up uncontrollably, then sat back down absent-mindedly. Regardless of whether Jiang Xiu could defeat his opponent or not, his realm was already at the middle stage of the lower celestial god realm. She had lost. She had completely lost. How could it be? How could it be? No one had ever been able to advance from the upper earth god realm to the middle stage of the lower celestial god realm in a month. No one had ever done it. Even Zhang Luoxia, the sect master of the Qianqing school, who was highly revered back then, had not done it. He really advanced. When the saber light fell, nothing else could be seen. Under the powerful saber intent, everything was suppressed and weakened. The blocking sword light was no different from the dust in the air. It shattered instantly, unable to withstand a single blow. The saber light passed through the opponent's body and slashed fiercely on the ground. Boom! Boom! Saber chi burst forth. Seeing his opponent's rotting clothes being blown away by the wind, but the person standing there safe and sound, panic, astonishment, and fear were written all over his face. His eyes were opened so wide that they almost fell out of their sockets. "You've lost." When the low voice came, Jiang Xiu had already turned around. Putting aside his strength, just his personality, aura, and courage, Jiang Xiu shocked him like never before. The person in front of him did not look like a low-level celestial god at all. Instead, he looked like a high and mighty divine king who ruled over the life and death of all things. He won. He broke through at the last minute and defeated his opponent? The entire place was silent as they stared at Jiang Xiu. Their hearts were filled with admiration for his arrogance and unruliness, as well as his decisiveness. Unknowingly, this person's elegant demeanor was like his hair and robes that fluttered in the wind. So strong. Jiang Xiu's strength was not strength, but the strength of his heart and the strength of his spiritual will. He actually won. She didn't know why, but logically speaking, if such a situation really happened, Grandma Jiang should be happy and ecstatic. The Jiang family had such an amazing disciple. When one person achieved the Tao, all his chickens and dogs would ascend to heaven. The Jiang family would also have a meteoric rise, but Grandma Jiang just couldn't be happy. How could this be? Jiang Chonghai was dumbfounded. He had a very bad impression of Jiang Xiu. He thought that Jiang Xiu had lost the emperor's favor and would never be able to make a comeback. However, he did not expect that Jiang Xiu would advance by one major realm and one minor realm in just 1 month. He even defeated the disciples of Qianqing school. Not to mention the emperor's grace, even the emperor would want his grace. Demon. Xue Jingsheng spat out these words after a long time. He had been paying close attention to Jiang Xiu, so of course he had heard about the matter of the 3-month agreement. Originally, it was impossible for the family to fight amongst themselves, but now, a peerless genius had appeared. Just this talent alone was enough to surpass him, the Emperor of Kalan. Cold sweat kept breaking out on his forehead. Did the ancestor bring him to Kalan because of his talent? Now, he had forcefully pushed Jiang Xiu out. Thinking of this, he broke out in a cold sweat. How was he going to explain to the ancestor when he came out of seclusion? To miss out on such a genius, was this a loss that he, the emperor, could bear? His eyes bulged, and he felt that his position as the emperor might be over. This child is extraordinary. I only heard that the Jiang family had an illegitimate child, but I didn't expect him to be so talented. Even the proud Shui Yank was shocked. He didn't know that Jiang Xiu was still an earth god a month ago. Shui Shengjing looked at his grandson, and his eyes lit up. Yes, there was also Yan Ku. He had also won. As long as Yan Ku also became a disciple of Qianqing school, he could make up for his mistakes. He won. The young master won. The 2 girls were overjoyed. It was as if they could see the Sky Motion sect waving at them. Li Chong was also extremely excited. His hand that was holding the sword was trembling. He could see his own bright future. Shangguan Zhaorong was stunned. When she stepped out of the Jiang family, she looked back and was reluctant to leave. She was a girl who was pushed forward by fate. When faced with the choice of life, she suddenly made such a big decision and felt uneasy. She faintly felt that she might have made a wrong decision. She was really wrong. The mysterious, indifferent, and magnanimous young master turned out to be such an amazing genius. Young Master Jiang. Congratulations. Seeing that Jiang Xiu had returned, everyone present congratulated him one after another. They hoped that they could form a relationship with this genius from Hang Tian Empire. Meanwhile, the way the people looked at the Jiang clan changed. They were extremely envious. The Jiang family is going to be rich. However, the Jiang family did not look happy at all. They hated Jiang Xiu, and those who knew were not happy at all. In fact, he had nothing to do with them. How could this happiness come from? It would be good if it was not a disaster. Mr. Jiang, congratulations. Jiang Chonghai was almost crying as he thanked him. Others did not know and thought that he was happy and excited. They all showed kind smiles, and their eyes were full of envy. Young master, we won. Xiaoye was a little bolder. Seeing that Zhang Xiu had returned, she spoke up. Are we going to Tianqing school? Zhang Xiu's face was still indifferent. For him, this was nothing to be happy about. Winning this game only proved that your talent met the requirements of Tianqing school. If you wanted to enter Tianqing school, the most important thing was to be able to pass Lu Chongkong. He was the key. Congratulations, young master. Shangguan Zhao Rong bowed and congratulated Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu did not think much of it, but Shangguan Zhao Rong continued, Young master, Zhao Rong wants to return to your side and go to Tianqing school with you. I don't know if young master will still accept Zhao Rong. As soon as she said this, Li Chong and the two servant girls all quieted down. Seeing that the future was uncertain, you left. Seeing that the young master had become rich, you wanted to come back. You did not want to take any risks. Although the two servant girls had a good impression of Shangguan Zhao Rong, they were a little disgusted at this moment. Zhang Xiu said, Do you think you can return to my side? Shangguan Zhao Rong said, I regret it. From the moment I stepped out of the Zhang family, I have regretted it. If young master can forgive Zhao Rong's mistake, Zhao Rong will be loyal to you in the future. Zhang Xiu said, Haven't you heard of a saying? It's called, once unfaithful, 100 times unfaithful. Shangguan Zhao Rong's tender body trembled and the confidence on her face faded. She boasted that her appearance was outstanding. Even the young masters of the Yi family and the Dugu family were jealous of her. She believed that Zhang Xiu would also be moved by her. She did not expect that he would refuse so straightforwardly. She felt that her self-confidence was shattered by Zhang Xiu at this moment. This servant is not unfaithful to young master. After I left the Zhang family, I did not seek refuge with anyone. Zhang Xiu knew that she was waiting for a good price. So what? Shangguan Zhao Rong said, So, young master should accept me again. What if I insist? Shangguan Zhao Rong smiled lightly. Her smile was very beautiful, elegant and refined, but also had a bit of charm. It had to be said that she was a very beautiful woman. No wonder the two noblest young masters fought for her. She whispered in Zhang Xiu's ear, Then Zhao Rong can only take risks. When Zhao Rong left the Zhang family, I inadvertently heard the conversation between Zhang Darren and the housekeeper. Then I investigated some things these days and confirmed one thing. Young master is not Zhang Darren's illegitimate child. Zhang Xiu still did not care. So what? Shangguan Zhao Rong said, Tianqing school pays attention to talent when accepting disciples, but they are also worried that enemy sects will send out spies. Young master's identity is fake. Do you think that Tianqing school's elder will still accept you? Zhang Xiu turned his head to look at her. He suddenly felt that this unreasonably beautiful girl was real. Not only was she a flower vase, but she was also quite scheming. The investigation was very clear and it was good to catch you. But you were wrong about one thing. Shangguan Zhao Rong froze. What is it? Zhang Xiu said, The only thing you were wrong about was that the person you threatened was me, Zhang Xiu. You don't understand me. I am not moved by force or persuasion. The only thing that can make me change my mind is your death. Shangguan Zhao Rong's expression became very ugly, and the indifference on her beautiful face disappeared. The person was already dead, so what was the use of dying to show one's resolve? The fourth young master of the Zhang family, Zhang Xiu, Tianqing school's elder invites you. Zhang Xiu smiled. If you can prove that you really regret it, maybe I will take you to Tianqing school. Chapter 508. Looking at Zhang Xiu's back as he left, Shangguan Zhao Rong's face turned ugly. Her eyes were filled with sadness and regret. This was a great opportunity, but she missed it in the end. Wang Xinya and Xiaoye looked at her and felt that she was a little pitiful. Pitiful people must also be hateful. If she hadn't heartlessly abandoned them back then, how could she have lost the glory and respect that was about to come today? Sister Zhao Rong. Shangguan Zhao Rong squeezed out a bitter smile and smiled at them. She smiled at how lucky these two girls were to have followed a good master. After staying in the Heaven Motion sect for a few years, perhaps even the children of the imperial family in the capital would marry them. Their value would increase by 100 times. Compared to their background, they had really become phoenixes. Are you okay? Shangguan Zhao Rong shook her head and said, I'm fine. Her gaze fell in the direction where Zhang Xiu had gone, and she secretly made up her mind. If Zhang Xiu could really enter Qianqing school, she would take him with her even if she had to die together with him. Zhang Xiu entered the temple and found that the Emperor of Kalan, Shui Shangjing, and the imperial grandson, Shui Yank, were already there. The other people were the people from Qianqing school. Lu Chongkong was standing at the head of the table. He stood there calmly, just like before. The past 60 years might be a lifetime for mortals, but for cultivators, it was just a short moment, just like the snap of a finger. He still looked the same as before, not changing at all. At this moment, he was sizing up Zhang Xiu curiously. Young Master Zhang, this is Elder Lu Chongkong of Qianqing School. Shui Shangjing introduced him enthusiastically. However, Zhang Xiu didn't even look at him. He gave him an extremely cold expression and let him experience it himself. He had saved Shui Lingyun's life and helped her obtain the monster core. A mere little emperor dared to put on airs in front of him. In the end, Jiang Chonghai ridiculed him and caused a group of people to interfere with his cultivation. If he hadn't survived, all his cultivation would have been destroyed. Seeing Zhang Xiu's indifference, Shui Shangjing's heart sank. This was troublesome. It seemed that this young Master Zhang was really angry. Shui Yank, who was at the side, was very unhappy. You haven't done anything yet, and you're already looking down on the current emperor. If you really succeed, will you still have me, Jia Lan, in your eyes? Lu Chongkong waved his sleeves, indicating that the Kalan emperor didn't need to be so cautious with his introduction. He looked at Zhang Xiu and was 90% satisfied with Zhang Xiu. His only regret was that Zhang Xiu was a god elementalist. What's your name? Zhang Xiu was a little hesitant. He regretted not changing his name back then, but he quickly answered, Zhang Xiu. Your surname is Zhang. Lu Chongkong was stunned. This made Zhang Xiu underestimate Lu Chongkong even more. It couldn't be that Lu Chongkong had associated this with Zhang Luoxia, right? So what if he had the surname Zhang? There were many people with the surname Zhang in this world. Yes, what's the matter? Lu Chongkong shook his head lightly and said, My sect has already stayed in Jialan for a few days. In a few days, I will go first and leave the rest to my disciples. The quality of the martial cultivators from outside was getting worse. He knew that it was about time. There are only 2 winners who will enter the second round. His gaze looked between Zhang Xiu and Shui Yank. Zhang Xiu was calm, but he was actually very nervous. If Lu Chongkong had a screw loose and didn't want him, it would be troublesome. Shui Yank was even more nervous. One sentence from this person was enough to change the course of her life. For this trip, I only took 3.5 places. However, 2 places have already been used elsewhere. Therefore, there is only 1 place left in the Jialan dynasty. As soon as this was said, everyone in the hall became nervous. Then isn't it a choice between the 2? Lu Chongkong nodded and said with a serious expression, That is indeed the case. I can only choose between the 2 of you. His gaze wandered as if he was thinking. Then who will the exalted immortal choose? Lu Chongkong's gaze fell on Zhang Xiu. He said, To be honest, with your talent, you can go to almost any sect in the immortal martial continent except for a few special sections. But you are a god cultivator. Everyone knows that the Qianqing school is a cultivation sect. God cultivators have no advantages. If you come to the Qianqing school, I'm afraid that you will be held back. Zhang Xiu was shocked. Lu Chongkong was actually such a person. He didn't realize before that Lu Chongkong was such a person. He said, In the immortal martial continent, god cultivator sects are all in decline. Unless I go to the immortal martial continent and learn from the Protoss, the Qianqing school is the best choice. Lu Chongkong smiled. You see it clearly. Xue Shangjing and Xue Yank were extremely nervous. Lu Chongkong said so much to Zhang Xiu and even had such a high opinion of him. Something was wrong. Lu Chongkong turned to them and said, Xue Yank is also very good, but she is not someone that the Qianqing school needs. Boom! Xue Shangjing and Xue Yank's heads exploded. They had already come this far, but in the end, it was all for naught because of the quota? How could they accept this? Immortal, Lu Chongkong raised his hand and said, Emperor of Kalan, there's no need to say more. Although Xue Yank had won, she had paid a huge price. She had an instrument and elixir to support her. What Lu Chongkong wanted was not a Pyrrhic victory, but a stunning crushing defeat like Zhang Xiu. The so-called quota was just a saying. If they really met a genius, would the sect miss it? No, Immortal, Yank's talent is amazing. I believe that this child has great potential. Immortal, why don't you give him a chance? He will definitely do well. With a thump, Xue Yank knelt down. Please give me a chance. Lu Chongkong was in a difficult position. But there is only one quota. This is the sect's rule. Although I am an elder, I cannot go against the sect's rules. Please forgive me. Xue Shangjing knew that Lu Chongkong had made up his mind and couldn't change it. He asked, if there is a quota, can Immortal send Yank to the Qianqing school? Lu Chongkong nodded. Of course. That's good. Xue Shangjing's face turned cold. He looked at Zhang Xiu and said, this person doesn't have the right to enter the Qianqing school. His identity is fake. He is not a descendant of the Zhang family. He is an impostor. Zhang Xiu's eyes fiercely swept over. What? The Qianqing school was very open to accepting disciples, but there was a prerequisite. They had to have a real identity and a clean background. The Qianqing school had been in the immortal martial continent for many years. A tall tree attracts the wind. There were definitely many people who couldn't stand it, not to mention their enemies. Of course, they didn't want to take in a spy. Before the ancient Zhao Rong could reveal his identity, the Emperor of Kalan took the initiative to reveal his identity. Zhang Xiu's real identity was gone, and he couldn't tell Zhang Xiu's real identity. No matter how he made it up, Zhang Xiu would go and verify it. Once verified, he would be exposed. Zhang Xiu, is what the Emperor of Kalan said true? Zhang Xiu smiled. Indeed, he's right. I am not a descendant of the Zhang family. However, this identity was arranged by the Emperor to protect your Xue family's face. Xue Shengjing said, what do you mean? Zhang Xiu said, do you know why Immortal Xue asked the Emperor to arrange an identity for me? Why? This was also the biggest question in Xue Shengjing's heart. Zhang Xiu said, then you'll have to ask your ancestor. I think your identity can't be exposed. Don't use my ancestor as a shield. You might be a spy that other sects want to send to the Qianqing school. Xue Shangjing didn't care about anything in order to exchange for a chance for his grandson. Immortal, you saw it too. This person is hiding his head but showing his tail. He even faked his identity. It's obvious that he's not an upright person. The Qianqing school can't accept such a person. He might really be a spy from another sect. Lu Chongkong smiled faintly, indicating for him not to be agitated. Zhang Xiu's identity was fake, but Xue Shengjing exposing him at this time was a little ugly. It was too purposeful, and Lu Chongkong didn't like it. However, Xue Shengjing insisted, Immortal, you know that there's something wrong with this person. If you still accept him to the Qianqing school, aren't you afraid of bringing a huge disaster to the Qianqing school and becoming a sinner of the sect? Zhang Xiu sneered and said, what a big hat. Xue Shengjing, I think you've wasted your position as an emperor. Elder Lu doesn't want your grandson. Do you think it's really because of the quota? It's because he's not qualified at all. Elder Lu is just saving you face. You don't know what's good for you. Chapter 509. As the former sect master of Qianqing School, Zhang Xiu was naturally aware of the Qianqing school's criteria for selecting disciples. Even if he, Zhang Xiu, was disqualified, a piece of trash would never be able to enter Qianqing school. It was ridiculous that he had betrayed his guest for such a non-existent possibility. Shui Shengjing said excitedly, "Nonsense. The immortal has clearly agreed just now. As long as there is a spot, he will accept Yan Ku." Immortal, isn't that so? Lu Chongkong was a little embarrassed. This was indeed his excuse. After all, this was Jialan, and he did not want to embarrass the royal family of Jialan. He did not expect the emperor to be so naive. A person who relied on his family's ritual implement and a pill that temporarily boosted his magical power to win a narrow victory would also be allowed to enter the Qianqing sect? That's right. Shui Shengjing was extremely excited. Did you hear that? Zhang Xiu, although you were introduced by my ancestor, your identity is suspicious. Why would the Qianqing school want you? Shui Yank, whose face was ashen, became excited. Once again, he saw the light of hope of entering Qianqing school. However, unexpectedly, Lu Chongkong said, although the Qianqing school requires the identity of its disciples to be clean and have no traces of other sects, Zhang Xiu is an exception. Why? Lu Chongkong gave a very simple reason, but it made Shui Yank speechless. Because he is a god cultivator. The Qianqing school had to guard against immortal sections. Moreover, no sect would let such a genius become a spy. Zhang Xiu's talent could be said to be an elder's talent. If his potential could be unearthed, his future would be limitless. If the Qianqing school did not want him, any sect would fight to take him. Ah! The words that he was a god cultivator fell on Shui Shengjing's head like thunder. He was stunned on the spot, as if his parents had died. Not only did he fail to let his grandson enter Qianqing school, but he also offended Zhang Xiu. Emperor of Kalan, please. Shui Shengjing did not know how he got out. When he walked out, the world outside was dark. Countless people were cheering, but he could not hear a single sound. He was in a daze. How could this be? The dignified Emperor of Kalan suffered a crushing defeat. After the Kalan Emperor left, Lu Chongkong's eyes flashed as he sized up Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu's heart inexplicably tensed up. This was something he had never felt before. He had a very bad premonition. He saw deep doubt and confusion in Lu Chongkong's eyes. Are there really two people who look so alike? His voice was very soft, as if he was asking himself. Zhang Xiu, go and pack up. Arrange for your servants to follow me back to Qianqing school. Lu Chongkong did not ask any more questions and directly ordered Zhang Xiu. However, his eyes were filled with deep curiosity as he looked at Zhang Xiu. This made Zhang Xiu feel very bad. He felt that Lu Chongkong was suspicious of him. He originally had a perfect identity to hide, but now that it had been dug out, it made the possibility that Lu Chongkong had already rejected become a problem. Zhang Xiu said, "Elder, aren't you going to ask about my background?" He had already made up an identity. Lu Chongkong smiled and shook his head. A person who looked so similar to Zhang Luoxia was enough to arouse his curiosity. To avoid trouble, you should attend Qianqing school as the fourth son of the Zhang family of the Kalan dynasty. It had already been registered. If it was changed, it would be troublesome. Yes. Zhang Xiu appeared very calm. He knew that the calmer he was, the less suspicious Lu Chongkong would be. Young master, young master. Seeing that Zhang Xiu had returned, Li Chong and the two maids came over to welcome him. They looked at Zhang Xiu excitedly and nervously, waiting for him to tell them the answer. Pack up. We're going to Qingzhou. Hua. The two maids hugged each other excitedly without caring about their image. Their fate had completely changed. This was even luckier than winning the lottery. It was simply a second reincarnation. Li Chong was also trembling with excitement. He really did not expect that his persistence at that time would lead to such a great opportunity. The Rain Dragon guards of the Kalan dynasty, when he, Li Chong, returned, even the Emperor of Kalan dynasty would have to be polite to him. Young master, when are we leaving? Zhang Xiu was far from being as excited as them. He was very nervous. Lu Chongkong seemed to be suspicious of him. Someone who was so unfamiliar with him was suspicious. There were people in Tianqing School who were very familiar with him. There was no guarantee that he would be recognized. There was no need to say what would happen if he was recognized. To him, attending Tianqing School was no different from dancing on the tip of a knife. Let's go back first and wait for the news. Zhang Xiu did not greet the Zhang family and returned home. However, when he reached the gate of the courtyard, he saw a young girl kneeling down when she saw them coming. It was Shangguan Zhao Rong. "Young master, can you bring Zhao Rong along?" She was very nervous and excited. Shui Yank was not chosen. She had already received the news that Zhang Xiu was chosen. Zhang Xiu walked past her. "Young master." Tears slid down her beautiful eyes. "Zhao Rong knows that young master is angry with me, but Zhao Rong has no choice. It's not that Zhao Rong is unwilling to serve young master, but that Zhao Rong can't." Zhang Xiu was curious when he heard this. Young master should have heard some things about Zhao Rong, the Yi family's young master, and the Dugu family's young master. Do you know why Zhao Rong did not choose them? Indeed, with her current status, being able to follow those two young masters could be said to be like flying into a phoenix. Why? Shangguan Zhao Rong said, "Because they can't help Zhao Rong. My Shangguan family was originally a big family, and my great-grandfather was once ranked first in the imperial court. However, he was convicted by the muddle-headed Shui Shengjing and exiled thousands of miles away. Zhao Rong even became a female official in the palace. A female official sounds nice, but she's just the servant of a guilty official. Zhao Rong wants to save my family and take revenge on Shui Shengjing. Young master can't give me these things, so young master is kind enough to let Zhao Rong leave. Zhao Rong will not hesitate." Zhang Xiu said, "So, when you saw that I can shake the Jialan dynasty, you came over again." Shangguan Zhao Rong said, "Yes. As long as young master is willing to let Zhao Rong come back, Shui Shengjing will definitely pardon my family. Zhao Rong will be grateful and will definitely do her best for young master." Zhang Xiu said, "What if I say no?" Shangguan Zhao Rong gritted her teeth. "Do you really want Zhao Rong to tell Tianqing School about your fake identity? When the time comes, we'll go our separate ways." Zhang Xiu laughed. "You're so stupid. How dare you threaten me? Aren't you afraid of death?" Shangguan Zhao Rong said, "I'm afraid, but I have to say it even if I'm afraid. If I don't say it, I won't have a chance at all. If I say it, there's still a chance." Tears welled up in her eyes again. Zhang Xiu reached out and gently lifted her chin. Her eyebrows were light, her eyes were like autumn water, her nose was high, and her lips were red. She was truly beautiful. So beautiful. Unfortunately, I like to destroy beautiful things. If you die, I'll save your family. Shangguan Zhao Rong was startled when she heard this, and then she revealed a look of determination. "Thank you for your kindness, young master. Zhao Rong will definitely repay you in the next life. Where is your family?" "The vine forest at the border of Jialan. I cut the grass there." Shangguan Zhao Rong's mouth trembled slightly. That was a bitter cold place. There was a lack of food, and life was extremely difficult. It was said that immortals would die there, and the grass there would never be completely cut. Zhang Xiu said, "Get up." After saying that, he walked inside. Shangguan Zhao Rong was confused. Xiao Yu, who was beside her, said happily, "Sister Zhao Rong, get up quickly. Young master agreed to let you stay." Shangguan Zhao Rong was confused and surprised. She didn't know why Zhang Xiu changed his mind. This was because Zhang Xiu was the kind of person who couldn't be swayed once he made up his mind. "Let's go in and pack up. We don't know when the immortals from Tianqing School will come." The people from Tianqing School didn't come, but the Zhang family hurried back. The news that Zhang Xiu was accepted as a disciple of Tianqing School by Lu Chongkong had spread. The Zhang family had completely changed. Zhang Xiu had become a treasure. Fourth young master, old madam and master are here to see you. Are you there? The housekeeper knocked on the door gently. The door was still closed, but he was already nodding and bowing. He was afraid that Jiang Xiu didn't know how respectful he was to him. Why did you close the door? Xiao Yu was confused and ran to open the door. Young master doesn't have time to see you. This time, Xiao Yu's tone was also arrogant. She was playing. In the future, she would be a servant of Tianqing School. Didn't she see how awesome the servants of Tianqing School were? Even high officials and nobles had to bow when they saw them. Sister Xiao Yu, please pass the message. Chapter 510. Even the head of the family addressed her as Sister Xiaoye. Her status would increase by 100 times. Sister Xiaoye said, "You can wait outside." This time, Sister Xiaoye was merciful. She was going to leave for Tianqing School. She didn't know what the young master's attitude was towards his family. When she entered the room, she saw Jiang Xiu arranging the pills on the shelf. Fortunately, Jiang Xiu had refined some of the resources into pills. Otherwise, it would be really inconvenient to carry them. Of course, they didn't dare to carry too many servants' things. As for Shangguan Zhaorong's things, they were all outside, but she didn't dare to go back to get them. What if the people from Tianqing School came and took Jiang Xiu away? Young master, the head of the family and his people asked for an audience. Jiang Xiu ordered Wang Xinya to put all the pills on the shelf. Then, he turned and walked out of the room. Seeing Jiang Xiu come out, the Jiang family's expressions were very strange. Jiang Chonghai smiled. "We came specially to congratulate you," Jiang Xiu said coldly. "You came to congratulate me, not to ask for forgiveness." The smile on Jiang Chonghai's face was very stiff, but he still tried to smile and said, "How can we let such a joyous occasion spoil the mood?" Jiang Xiu said, "That little thing barged in while I was cultivating. How vicious! If I hadn't endured it, even dropping my realm would be a light punishment." The Jiang family's expressions changed. Jiang Chonghai said, "We were also worried that you would be late." Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Xiu didn't expect Jiang Xiu to suddenly come out. At this moment, Jiang Xiu's realm was the same as his. He didn't have time to react at all. He saw the shadow of a foot coming at him, and the energy passed through his body. With a puff, he spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? This kick is aimed at your heart meridian and severed your golden core great Tao. I want you to have a taste of being seriously injured, having your blood and qi surge in the opposite direction, and having your realm become unstable." Jiang Chonghai's face alternated between green and white. He was in extreme pain, but no one dared to make a sound. "Old madam, old man Du, and Jiang Haochuan." Jiang Xiu said, "Who led the charge?" "It looks like you." He pointed his finger at Jiang Haochuan. Jiang Haochuan was so scared that he trembled. There was fear in his eyes as he looked at Jiang Xiu, but there was hatred in the depths of his eyes. "Jiang Chonghai, I'll give you one chance. Kill him." "What?" Jiang Chonghai couldn't believe it. Everyone else was stunned. Jiang Chonghai opened his mouth and said, "You will be a dragon among men in the future. I also took a kick from you. There's no need to lower yourself to my level. You did it yourself. An eye for an eye. If you wait for me to do it, it will be your entire Jiang family." Jiang Xiu's tone was flat, but it sent chills down one's spine. This person was so ruthless to himself, so he must be even more ruthless to others. Jiang Chonghai squeezed out a smile with difficulty and said, "Young master, you must be joking. After all, we are family." Jiang Xiu said, "If you really thought of me as a family, why would you bully me as soon as I arrived? If I was a coward, wouldn't I have been eaten dry? You knew we were family, yet you still forced me to hand over my cultivation resources. You knew we were family, yet you still rushed in at the critical moment of my cultivation? My patience is limited. Don't wait for me to make a move." The muscles on Jiang Chonghai's face trembled. Zhang Haochuan was so scared that his face was pale as he knelt on the ground and cried, "Father, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Don't tell me you don't want to be a family anymore? I'm afraid that if you can't be a family, Qianqing School may not be willing to accept you." He was reminding Zhang Xiu that he was still a member of the Zhang family. Little did he know that Zhang Xiu had already been threatened twice. Zhang Xiu said, "Are you trying to say that I'm not a member of the Zhang family and that Qianqing School knows about my fake identity and that Qianqing School won't accept me?" Zhang Xiu said it so openly that Zhang Chonghai was shocked. He looked at him in shock and said, You. The people around them couldn't help but burst into an uproar. He wasn't a member of the Zhang family? Zhang Xiu said, "In order to get Shui Yang to go to Qianqing School, Shui Shengjing already told Qianqing School about this before you did, but in the end, Zhang Chonghai was stunned." Ah! Zhao Rong Shangguan covered her mouth. It turned out that this matter had already been exposed, and the young master was fine. She thought that her threat had worked. "Is there anything else you want to say?" Zhang Chonghai looked at Zhang Xiu and felt that this person was cold and terrifying. His hair stood on end. His last support had been destroyed. The Zhang family was facing an unprecedented disaster. He turned to look at Zhang Haochuan. "No, father, I don't want to die. I don't want to die." Zhang Chonghai had thought that with the strength of the family, they could kill Zhang Xiu. However, Zhang Xiu was about to become a disciple of Qianqing School. Even the Jialan royal family wouldn't dare to kill a disciple of Qianqing School, let alone them. "Haochuan." Zhang Chonghai had no way out. "No, grandmother, I don't want to die. Please save me. You've doted on me since I was young." At this moment, old Madame Zhang was completely at a loss. She was only domineering at home. She didn't dare to say anything in front of outsiders, especially when she knew that Zhang Xiu was only a member of their family. "Haochuan, you caused the trouble yourself. You have to bear the consequences. Don't implicate the whole family." Zhang Haochuan was trembling. He had been beaten by the disciples of Qianqing School several times and cried out in pain. Now that he was going to die, he was lucky that he didn't go crazy from fear. Zhang Chonghai pulled out his sword. "Father!" Blood splattered and sprayed on Zhang Chonghai's face. His eyes were completely dull. He had killed his son with his own hands. Seeing this scene, many women of the Zhang family fainted on the spot and fell to the ground. Old Madame Zhang also sat on the ground. "Young Master Zhang, are you satisfied now?" Zhang Xiu turned around and left. If he didn't do his job well, Shui Shengjing would at most demote him. However, Zhang Xiu wasn't so easy to deal with. If it weren't for his tough life and the cultivation experience of his previous life, anyone else would have died in the thunder today. Shui Shengjing had already shown him great mercy by only killing him. "Young master." Shangguan Zhaorong came to his side. "What's the matter? Since the Qianqing School already knows that you forged your identity, why did you still accept Zhaorong back?" She was very puzzled and couldn't see through this young master. Zhang Xiu didn't answer her, but the answer was actually very simple. "Have you packed everything?" "Zhaorong has nothing to pack." Zhang Xiu nodded slightly. "Prepare dinner. The possibility of them coming today is not high. I guess they will only come tomorrow morning." The enrollment today was still going on. No matter what, they would have to wait until the end of the day. Lu Chongkong couldn't travel overnight, so he would only come tomorrow morning. In the southeast of the capital, a huge flying boat was floating, hidden in the sea of clouds. This was Lu Chongkong's ride. Although it was far away from Zhang Xiu's ride, it was still very shocking in the eyes of the people of the Jialan dynasty. Many people, even the Jialan royal family, had never seen a flying boat before. The speed of the flying boat was amazing, and it could carry a large number of people. It was also very comfortable. The only drawback was that the cost of counterfeiting was too high. Many of the materials inside were extremely precious, let alone making such a huge flying boat. When Li Chong and the maids boarded the flying boat, they were very nervous and excited. There were also some servants working on the flying boat. In addition, there were Lu Chongkong and a few disciples. Qingzhou is very far away. It will take about a month to get there. In addition to the servants, there were 2 other newly recruited disciples and a few old disciples on the flying boat. They gathered together. The 2 newly recruited disciples seemed to be familiar with the old disciples. From time to time, the old disciples would explain to them some things to pay attention to after arriving at the Qianqing school. Elder, that Zhang Xiu doesn't seem to fit in with the group. Lu Chongkong turned his head and saw Zhang Xiu standing alone on the deck of the flying boat. He was looking at the clouds flying past in front of him, and the heavenly wind whistled past his ears. Indeed, his temperament is arrogant, and his eyes are indifferent. He always has a feeling of looking down on things, as if everything is like an ant in his eyes. It's really too similar. The disciple asked in confusion, similar to what? Lu Chongkong knew that he had said something wrong. He smiled and said, nothing. Zhang Xiu, keep an eye on him. I have a feeling that he's not that simple. Does Master suspect that he's a spy? Lu Chongkong shook his head and said, that's not it. I just feel that there's a dangerous aura on him. Chapter 5:11. Danger. The disciple was shocked to hear this from the elder. He was just a new disciple, and he was only in the divine realm. It was unbelievable that the elder would feel danger from him. Elder, are you referring to his talent? He was just a divine realm cultivator. Even if his talent was good, the Qianqing school had no shortage of talented geniuses. It was impossible for him to reach the level of an elder without thousands of years of hard work. The previous sect master, Jiang Luoxia, was the fastest person to become an immortal king, but it still took him more than 2,000 years. It was such a long time ago that he probably wouldn't feel any pressure at all, let alone danger. Lu Chongkong shook his head gently and said, just keep an eye on him. If he does anything unusual, report to me. Yes. A disciple clasping his hands in greeting? Although he didn't understand what was going on, he didn't dare to be negligent or question the elder's orders. He turned his gaze to Zhang Xiu. It seemed that this young man was a special disciple of the sect. But what exactly is dangerous about him? There was everything on the flying boat. Although the journey was a bit boring, the pace of life of cultivators was very slow. Some people wouldn't feel bored flying on their swords for months, let alone a month. A month later, the group arrived at the border of Qingzhou. We're back. Zhang Xiu looked at the sect in the distance. It had been almost 60 years. His trip to Earth felt like a lifetime ago. His gaze swept over the main peak of the sky-traversing sect, where he used to be the sect master. However, he couldn't go back there. Do you see it? That's the Qianqing school. Senior brother Ma Dong excitedly and proudly pointed at the sect in the distance. He had spent a long time away from home this time, and he missed his home dearly. It's so spectacular. Big sects naturally had their own style, but Zhang Xiu had seen it too many times and was already numb. Moreover, after entering the mountain, the surrounding vegetation was lush. It felt like returning to nature, and it wasn't as spectacular as it looked from the outside. He also liked peace and quiet. He often went to the forbidden area behind the main peak and stayed in the wooden house to cultivate. Most of the time, he didn't even bring a maid with him. Young master, we're here. Shangguan Zhaorong's beautiful face was also full of joy. When she boarded the airship, the Emperor of Jialan had already pardoned the Shangguan family. Not only that, but they were also reinstated. Of course, it was not because of any grievances. It was simply because Shangguan Zhaorong had become Zhang Xiu's concubine maid and a servant of the Qianqing school. And these days, Shangguan Zhaorong also did what she said. She took care of Zhang Xiu's life in every possible way. She warmed Zhang Xiu's bed and made him tea. It could be said that she did her best. We're here, we're here. The other 2 disciples who had just entered the sect could not suppress the excitement in their hearts. Compared to Zhang Xiu's 4 attendants, these 2 brought many people. The servant named Wang Zhu Tian brought a total of 120 people. The other servant named Wu Zhankue did not lose out either. He also brought more than 100 people. Moreover, they pulled more than 20 carts of supplies. The momentum was astonishing and mighty. They did not need so many servants and supplies. However, they had no choice. A large portion of the supplies were given to them by the current emperor. Many of the people were given to them by the emperor's royal family. Another new disciple has arrived. A disciple who flew by on his sword said when he saw the situation. They had also made a similar mistake, but in the end, only a few people were able to stay by their side. The sect did not have so many places for them to stay. Of course, it would be too embarrassing to go back. In the end, they all stayed in Tianqing City. Right now, you are only ordinary outer sect disciples. You have to stay here temporarily and cultivate diligently. Only then can you stand out and become inner sect disciples. Only when you become inner sect disciples will a master notice you and accept you as a disciple and become a true disciple. Senior Brother Ma said. May I ask if Senior Brother Ma is a true disciple? Wang Zhu Tian asked. Although this kid's name was domineering, he actually looked like a loser. He did not have any temperament and was even a little simple and honest. However, his personality was just like his name. He was very cool and arrogant. Of course. Do you still need to ask? Wu Zhankue was a tall and sturdy man. Unexpectedly, Senior Brother Ma looked a little embarrassed and said, Not at the moment. Take it that I have never given up. In Tianqing School, other than the sect master and the law-enforcing elder, only the peak master was qualified to accept disciples. The peak master was a cultivator. How could he waste his time on disciples? Therefore, each person would not accept too many disciples. Only a dozen or so. Even those who like to accept disciples the most would only accept 30 to 40 people. One could imagine how difficult it was to become a true disciple. Zhang Xiu was a freak in his previous life. It could also be said that he was lucky. He was directly accepted as a disciple by the sect master. In other words, he was a true disciple when he entered Tianqing School. People like him were all top geniuses. The facts also proved that Zhang Xiu's sect master had sharp eyes. Zhang Xiu's sect master only had some difficulties at the beginning. After some time, he soared to the sky after getting used to it. He did not expect the starting point to be so low. However, this was also good. He felt uncomfortable to have another sect master, and it was even a former subordinate. After Lu Chongkong arrived at the sect master, he did not care anymore. This mission was more to deal with the sect master's tasks. However, before he left, he specially called out to Zhang Xiu. You are a spiritual cultivation student. Your situation is special and I am the one who recruited you. If you encounter any problems in the future, you can come to the long space to look for me. Zhang Xiu said, Thank you, Elder. Lu Chongkong looked at him deeply, then immediately used the escape technique and disappeared. Let's go. He pointed to the distance and said, There are layers of mountains in the sky bridge. Do you see that? The higher the mountain, the more spiritual energy there is, and the stronger the people who live there. Outer sect disciples are not allowed to pass the third peak. This is the rule. If you violate it, you will be punished by the sect. Thank you, Senior Brother. The two new disciples were very obedient, but Zhang Xiu turned a deaf ear to them. Zhang Xiu had come here for two reasons. Firstly, he wanted to find out why his position as the sect leader had been replaced by someone else before the 60-year period was up. Secondly, he wanted to retrieve the resources that had been secretly stored in the past. There seemed to be some left under the third peak, but the main treasures were all above. In other words, he had to violate this rule. Ma Dong glanced at Zhang Xiu and frowned. He found that this person was extremely arrogant and treated everything indifferently. He had no respect for anyone. He had been suppressing his anger for the past month, but he couldn't vent it because the elders were on the airship. Now that the elders were gone, this brat still dared to be so arrogant. In the southeast, there is a house that is empty. You guys can stay there, As he said this, he took the lead and went forward. Zhang Xiu could not help but be surprised. The southeast was an auspicious place, so how could there be such a large empty house there? According to Zhang Xiu's memories, it should be full. Could it be? He thought of a possibility. The sect specially went out to recruit disciples this time. Could it be that the sect had exhausted too many disciples? Could it be caused by the change of sect master? When they arrived, Zhang Xiu looked around and quickly took a fancy to a manor near the cliff. It was the most tidy and had lush vegetation. Judging from the layout, it might have been a ferry in the past. It was not Zhang Xiu's mother, but a girl's place. It was tidier and more comfortable to live in. Moreover, it was near the cliff, so it was relatively hidden and convenient for him to come and go. If he lived in the middle, it would be hard to avoid suspicion if he went in and out. Young master, there are so many empty houses. Which one should we choose? Zhang Xiu pointed and said, "Let's go to that courtyard. It's very comfortable there. Zhao Rong also likes it." Just as Zhang Xiu's servant was overjoyed that he would be able to start a brand new life here, a voice came from the side. "Who said you can choose that courtyard?" "Your side." It was Ma Dong. He pointed to a shady place. There was no sunlight there, and the courtyard was damp. Because no one lived there, it was even moldy and dilapidated. Zhang Xiu snorted coldly and ignored him. He rushed to the house he had chosen. "Impudent!" Ma Dong's figure flashed and blocked Zhang Xiu's path. "I said, your courtyard is that one." Zhang Xiu said, "I insist on living here. What can you do about it?" The surrounding people looked at Zhang Xiu in astonishment. A newcomer who had just arrived at Qianqing School dared to go against a senior. He was too reckless. Chapter 5:12. What did you say? Ma Dong couldn't believe it. Zhang Xiu was usually cold and indifferent. It was fine if he didn't greet his senior brother, but now he dared to talk back to him. "You're just a new disciple. How dare you be so arrogant? I'll make the arrangements. It's not up to you to say anything. You have to accept it whether you like it or not." Zhang Xiu glanced at him indifferently. "Who do you think you are? How dare you mess with me? You're just an inner disciple. What right do you have to give me a shabby house? Today, I'm going to live in the courtyard by the cliff. What can you do about it?" As he spoke, Zhang Xiu's ferocious aura burst out. "How dare you?" "Umph." Zhang Xiu sneered. He didn't even look at him and went straight to the courtyard. Although the servants were very nervous, they followed Zhang Xiu closely. However, they all looked anxious. They wanted to persuade Zhang Xiu not to be so aggressive. They didn't want to offend their senior brother, but they didn't dare to say that to Zhang Xiu. Seeing that Zhang Xiu didn't take him seriously, Ma Dong couldn't keep his face straight. Especially in front of the two new junior brothers who had been so respectful to him, his prestige fell to the ground. "I think you're courting death." Ma Dong's figure rushed out and floated in the air. The airflow around his body rotated, and his black robe fluttered. The airflow around him crackled. At this moment, Ma Dong was like a sharp sword. "Rip." He pointed his sword at Zhang Xiu and a sword light rushed out. The sword light flashed, engulfing the heaven and earth and stirring up the airflow. The powerful sword qi penetrated the void and was about to kill Zhang Xiu. Immortal slaying sword? Umph. Zhang Xiu's lips curled into a smile. His figure swayed slightly and the cloud under him shot him up into the sky like a sprayer. At the same time, there was a flash of light in front of him and a long saber slashed down from the sky. At the same time, he cursed, "Humph." The first sound of heaven and earth. This was the first time Zhang Xiu unleashed his first divine rune talent in the immortal martial continent. His opponent's subordinate was a late-stage heavenly immortal, a minor level higher than him. However, from the beginning, Zhang Xiu knew what kind of sword technique he was going to use. He was too familiar with it. His saber light directly cut into the sword light. He knew exactly how the sword light condensed. Under this collision, after a flash of light, the saber light continued to slash forward without slowing down. Ma Dong turned pale with fright. How is that possible? His realm was higher than Zhang Xiu's, and his supernatural power was stronger than Zhang Xiu's. What he used was the sword technique of Tianqing school. How could Zhang Xiu defeat him? It was too late to dodge. He could only chant an incantation, and a thin layer of light appeared within his body. Puchi. Ma Dong's complexion instantly paled as the blade pierced through his body. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He clutched his chest in pain as his eyes stared at Zhang Xiu with indescribable fear. Wow! Everyone who witnessed this scene was in an uproar. The two new disciples were dumbfounded. Zhang Xiu was so powerful that he could even defeat senior brother Ma with one strike? This naturally caused them to be extremely shocked, but what caused them to be even more shocked was that Zhang Xiu actually dared to make a move against their senior brother as soon as he arrived here. Isn't this a little too bold? The onlookers felt their hair stand on end. Zhang Xiu's eyes turned cold as he glanced at Ma Dong coldly. Do you have the guts to stop me again? If Zhang Xiu struck again, he would definitely be killed by the saber. Ma Dong glared at him angrily, but he didn't dare to say anything. His heart was filled with both shock and anger. Needless to say, he was angry, but he was also shocked. His realm is obviously lower than mine, Zhang Xiu shouted coldly. If you don't want to die, scram. Okay, you have guts. Ma Dong dragged his injured body and flew in another direction. He was an inner sect disciple, so his position was higher than that of an outer sect disciple. However, he had lost all his face and had to flee in a fluster. He was battered and exhausted. He didn't have the slightest bit of prestige left. Even if he met the other two new disciples in the future, it wouldn't matter. Humph. Zhang Xiu sneered, but in his heart, he was cursing Ma Dong for being an idiot. The reason why Zhang Xiu was a genius was that he never followed blindly to cultivate sword techniques. Before he understood the power of sword techniques, he would never ignore the essence of sword techniques, nor would he ignore the meaning of incantations. Immortal Slaying Sword, as the name implied, was used to slay immortals. This sword could explode with great power when facing immortal cultivators. The sword techniques were used to target immortals, and the incantations were used to suppress immortals. However, Ma Dong forgot one thing. Zhang Xiu wasn't an immortal, but a god. This was the main reason for Ma Dong's complete defeat. Let's go. Zhang Xiu flew towards the courtyard he had chosen. Ma Dong had been taught a lesson by Zhang Xiu. Although everyone thought that the courtyard by the cliff was the best, no one dared to snatch it from him. The five of them, master and servant, lived in the courtyard. Young master is so powerful. Even an immortal on horseback was defeated. The two girls were very excited. Li Chong was a little worried. His young master was too strong. On the surface, he had won and was very impressive. However, what would happen next? Ma Dong had been in Tianqing school for so many years. How could he be bullied by a newcomer? It was unwise for a cultivator to fight with a senior over an insignificant residence. Settle it as soon as possible. If there's anything you don't have, you can buy it in Tianqing City. Although the courtyard was there, it had been empty for a long time. Everything was missing, including the simplest quilt. On the other hand, the other two had hundreds of servants. A courtyard was not enough to accommodate them. Needless to say, when the time came, many people would be chased down the mountain to live in Tianqing City. There were also carriages of supplies, pots, bowls, ladles, and basins. Shangguan Zhaorong and the two girls roughly tidied up the courtyard. Li Chong did not dare to be arrogant anymore. He helped out wherever he could. Young master, we'll be going to Tianqing City. Before tonight, everything had to be properly arranged so that Zhang Xiu could live comfortably. Okay. Zhang Xiu also left the house and flew towards Hidden Sword Pavilion. Everything here was so familiar. He turned a corner in a familiar corridor and came to a room with a bunch of slow bookshelves. Sure enough, This place was still the same as before. There were all kinds of simple notation and a bunch of miscellaneous notes. In his previous life, Zhang Xiu spent a lot of time cultivating here, especially reading sword manuals. He started from the most basic bit by bit. He remembered that at that time, Zhang Xiu was bullied by his senior brother. His medicinal pills and other things were taken away. He secretly hid some in Hidden Sword Pavilion. He did not know if there were any left. He walked to the place where he hid his medicinal pills. Although they were not very popular, they were very useful for Zhang Xiu at his current stage. He pulled open the bookshelf and saw a tightly sealed porcelain bottle. He was delighted. It was still here. This feeling was definitely like suddenly remembering that he had hidden 300 yuan. He reached out and took it out. However, when he opened the bottle and poured out the contents, Zhang Xiu's joy disappeared. It was empty. Not a single pill. Back then, Zhang Xiu did not have a special physique. In the early stage, coupled with some limitations in his knowledge, his progress was very hurried. He was looked down upon by his senior brother and was bullied. In order to survive, he went into the mountains to collect medicinal herbs, hunt demons, and refine medicinal pills. It was very difficult. It was also during that period of time that Zhang Xiu grew the fastest. He did not care. He would do it again. However, he did not leave immediately. He flipped through the simple notation here with great interest. These basic things did not seem very interesting, but he could slowly recall them. Although the amount of resources in Qianqing School was much more than in Jialan Dynasty, it was far from enough for Zhang Xiu's cultivation. It seems that if I want to get more resources and increase my cultivation speed, I can only go to a higher mountain. He thought of a place where he hid his treasures. He could think of a way to enter that place. On the other side, the news that Zhang Xiu had beaten up a senior brother as soon as he arrived spread like the wind in Qianqing School. For a time, it caused quite a stir. The Qianqing School had been passed down for a long time, but no one had dared to be so arrogant. He had dared to hurt people as soon as he came up the mountain. Many people were eager to meet this new junior brother. Qianqing School was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. If one wanted to enter the inner sect from the outer sect, one had to step on others. It was the same for becoming a true disciple from the inner sect. One had to kill his way out of a bloody storm. Only by becoming a true disciple and having the protection of a master could one be considered to have a backer. However, the only thing one could rely on in this world was one's own cultivation. Chapter 5:13. After leaving the Hidden Sword Pavilion, Zhang Xiu went to the Sword Cry Peak, a place where many disciples practiced their swordsmanship. An ancestor of the Qianqing School had left many traces of his swordsmanship there, and many disciples were willing to linger there. It was said that if one's comprehension was high enough, one could comprehend one or two of the swordsmanship. The power of the swordsmanship was even greater than that of ordinary true disciples. Therefore, many disciples harbored dreams and came here to try their luck. It was very popular, and over time, it became one of the busiest places in the Qianqing School. However, before Zhang Xiu reached there, he was stopped along the way. Zhang Xiu looked up and saw the injured Ma Dong. Beside him were several disciples wearing the Qianqing School uniform. Zhang Xiu swept his eyes over them, but he couldn't see through any of their realms. They were all above him. "Your junior brother Zhang." The leader was a young man who looked handsome and had some bearing. However, this former sect master didn't even recognize a few true disciples, let alone these ordinary disciples. Yes. Zhang Xiu had encountered this scene when he was studying on Earth. In his previous life, when he first entered the Qianqing School, he also encountered this scene. When young people gathered together, this kind of thing seemed to happen all the time. Last time, Zhang Xiu was scared to death, but now, you've got guts. You dare to fight with senior brother as soon as you arrive. Zhang Xiu said, "So what if I am? Are you blind? You don't even recognize our senior brother Wuchen. This is the son of the Daluo Peak's deputy peak master. He was born a disciple of the Qianqing School. Zhang Xiu laughed in his heart. The second generation of the Quan family. And then, Xiao Wuchen laughed. Zhang Xiu's indifference really made him feel very uncomfortable. Which new disciple didn't bow their heads and flatter him when they saw him? Since you're so arrogant, then you'll have to hand in the resources every month on time. His smile gradually disappeared, and his eyes shone with a terrifying light. Suddenly, killing intent surged out. A new disciple like Zhang Xiu dared to be so presumptuous. This completely infuriated him. According to him, they needed to be taught a lesson. In the Chenqing school area, especially for those who had just entered the school and whose cultivation was relatively low, when they saw this local tyrant, everyone had the attitude that they could not afford to provoke or hide from him. Whenever they saw him, they would hide far away. What if I don't? Xiao Wuchen's face became even colder, and he smiled evilly. At this moment, he almost couldn't hold back his anger. He wanted to directly injure this kid and make him understand what kind of place the Tianqing school was. Then I'll break all the bones in your body, one by one. If you don't give it to me, then I'll cut off your fingers one by one. Zhang Xiu said, Are you sure you can do it? Why don't you try it now? What? Xiao Wuchen froze for a moment. Zhang Xiu really didn't fear him at all. He had never seen such a new disciple before. But in terms of strength, he was only in the middle stage of the lower divine realm. Could it be that he had some background? Xiao Wuchen was very clear about Zhang Xiu's background. He was a disciple recruited by Elder Lu from the Jialan dynasty. I think you're courting death. You think I don't dare to kill you? Zhang Xiu's eyes were still indifferent. He looked at Xiao Wuchen like a bodhisattva in a temple looking at an ant under his feet. You can try. You're courting death. Xiao Wuchen hadn't exploded yet, but a few of his subordinates couldn't stand it anymore. They were provoked again and again by a new disciple. Where should they put their faces? They hadn't bullied anyone for so long that they didn't even know how to be afraid of new disciples. They were really regressing the more they mingled. But at this moment, a loud noise came from afar. It seemed like something had happened. It seemed like it came from the Sword Cry Mountain. They heard a pleasant voice. Senior Brother Gu, you drank too much. A few people pulled a man in luxurious clothes. I didn't drink too much. Quickly, call my junior sister Qing over to drink with me. Senior brother, you really drank too much. We brothers will send you back to rest. That man in luxurious clothes waved his hand and said, What rest? If I want to rest, I want junior sister Qing to rest with me. And Zhang Xiu saw that this man in luxurious clothes had some eyes. He had seen him before. If he didn't guess wrong, he should be a true disciple. Why was he drunk and acting crazy here? From his tone, he was even flirting with his junior sister. Junior sister Qing, are you comprehending the sword above? Let's go back first. Not far away, he saw a beautiful female disciple with a cold expression. Zhang Xiu remembered this female disciple. As the former patriarch, of course he had to care about her. This girl was born with the clear sky true body. Her immortal body was incomparably pure. As soon as she entered the sect, a few old fellows of the sect fought to take her as a disciple. In the end, she even went to Zhang Xiu and was scolded by him. Later on, Zhang Xiu let her make her own decision. Who did she follow? Zhang Xiu actually abandoned Xiao Wuchen and walked over. Looking at the man in luxurious clothes, Senior Brother Gu, he muttered in his heart, Consider yourself unlucky. Hey, do you still want people to comprehend the sword? Xiao Wuchen and the others couldn't help but stare. The trouble on their side hadn't been solved yet, and they actually dared to provoke those true disciples. Were they tired of living? Senior Brother Gu's junior brothers saw Zhang Xiu coming over. Although they were also a little drunk, the fierceness on their faces didn't lessen. Who are you? What business do you have, Yu? This is the son of Elder Gu Duqian. So, he was the son of that old fellow Gu Duqian. No wonder he dared to drink and openly tease the genius female disciple of the sect. Hurry up and push him away. Don't look for trouble. Unfortunately, they didn't know that Jiang Xiu had come to look for trouble. So, without waiting for him to speak, Jiang Xiu walked over and stopped in front of Senior Brother Gu. Senior Brother Gu, this is the Sword Cry Peak. It's the holy land of the Sword Dao. It's not very good for you to drink and cause trouble here, right? Xiao Wuchen and Ma Dong were completely convinced. This young man really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He was the second generation of a true disciple, and his father was an elder. He was really tired of living. Who do you think you are? This Senior Brother Gu had been bitterly in love with junior sister Qing for many years, but he was rejected time and time again. This time, he was rejected in public and was embarrassed. After drinking, he came to look for her again. That kind of pain of not being able to get what he wanted, anyone who had liked a girl before could understand. It was heartbreaking. You better watch carefully. I'm the son of Elder Gu. I can do whatever I want in Tianqing School. Can't I do whatever I want in this small Sword Cry Peak? I just want to treat junior sister Qing to a drink. If you have nothing to do with this, hurry up and leave. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Jiang Xiu said, I don't care who you are. Sword Cry Peak is a holy land. If you dare to make a scene here under the guise of drinking, don't blame me for kicking you down the mountain. I'll go. Xiao Wuchen felt that he couldn't take it anymore. Had he been eliminated by this world? A newcomer actually wanted to kick an elder's son down the mountain. Senior Brother Gu was amused. He was considered one of the best hedonistic sons in Tianqing School. After doing whatever he wanted for most of his life, he actually met someone who was even more arrogant than him. You want to kick me down the mountain? Why don't you try? As he spoke, his eyes emitted a fierce light. He raised his hand and slapped Jiang Xiu. Who told you to be ruthless with me? Originally, this kind of matter should have been left to his underlings. However, he was in a bad mood today. In addition, the goddess of his dreams was in front of him. He felt that he had to show off his prestige and let junior sister Qing know how awesome the man who pursued her was. However, Senior Brother Gu saw a strange smile in the other party's eyes. Wait, a smile? What was this situation? He was the one who slapped him, yet he was still smiling. Senior Brother Gu felt that there was something wrong with this person's brain. However, before he could figure it out, a foot kicked him in the face. He saw that the foot kept getting bigger and bigger. Then, he felt a pain on his face and his whole body flew out. By the time he reacted, he had already flown off the mountain. Damn, he was actually kicked down the mountain. Everyone heard it. He told me to try. Clang. Xiao Wuchen and Ma Dong almost fell to the ground and died. The entire Sword Cry Peak was silent. Junior sister Qing was so shocked that she covered her mouth and almost cried out. Everyone looked at Jiang Xiu in shock, including Senior Brother Gu who had fallen off the mountain. He still couldn't believe that all of this was real. Chapter 5:14. Xiao Wuchen and Ma Dong were completely dumbfounded. They looked at each other in dismay. What kind of background did this guy have? He was so awesome that he even dared to kick the son of an elder. What was a mere son of a deputy peak master to him? Fortunately, they didn't fight with him just now. It seemed that his background wasn't ordinary. Phew! Thinking of this, Xiao Wuchen felt a chill down his spine. He was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. He secretly exchanged glances with a few people beside him, ready to fight at any time. I can't afford to offend him, but I can still hide from him. But how could the junior brothers besides Senior Brother Gu let him fall off the cliff? According to the strength of a cultivator's body, if he fell from such a high height, he wouldn't die, but he wouldn't be able to escape with a broken arm. Cloud-sucking hand. Suddenly, he pushed out his palm, and a powerful force covered the valley under the mountain where the wind was howling. He pulled up with force, and even Senior Brother Gu was pulled up along with the airflow below. You dare to kick me? This kick made Senior Brother Gu completely furious. He stared at Zhang Xiu. Do you know who I am? My father is an elder, Gu Duqian. If you dare to kick me today, I'll make sure you can't stay in Tianqing school anymore. Zhang Xiu said indifferently with dead fish eyes. I'm very scared. As he spoke, Zhang Xiu walked forward step by step. Senior Brother Gu was a bit confused as he watched him approach. It was mainly because he drank a little too much. His big brain was dizzy, and he couldn't think clearly. However, he had a very bad feeling in his heart. You, what do you want to do? Zhang Xiu smiled. Kick you off the mountain. Ah! Senior Brother Gu saw the foot in front of him grow bigger and bigger again. Then he felt pain on his face. With a scream, his whole body flew out again. You said that I would kick you off the mountain. As a disciple of Tianqing school, I have to do what I said. Let's keep our promises. Damn it! The seniors and juniors on the side were stunned. Our Senior Brother Gu almost died from anger. Where did this lunatic come from? Did he not know what the elder's son meant? If you dare to touch me, not to mention my father, even I can chop you into pieces. Moreover, aren't you afraid of being punished by the law enforcement hall for openly kicking a successor disciple down the mountain? However, a dignified true disciple had been kicked down the mountain by an ordinary disciple who had appeared out of nowhere. Where would he put his face? If this news spread back to the upper 3 peaks, he would become a laughingstock. It was likely that he would never be able to raise his head again. No, if I have the chance to go up again, I must convince him not to kick me down the mountain. It's too embarrassing. Cloud-sucking palm. Seeing that Senior Martial Brother Gu was kicked down again, he hurriedly used his immortal martial technique to suck Senior Martial Brother Gu back from the cliff. Wait a minute. Brother, let's discuss this properly. We are all civilized people. Why do you? Senior Brother Gu wanted to say that there was no need to fight, but before he could finish his sentence, he saw the foot grow bigger again. Damn, this is unreasonable. He couldn't allow himself to be kicked again. The first time was carelessness, the second time was carelessness, but if he were to be kicked a third time, he would be a fool. I'll dodge. Seeing that foot coming, Senior Martial Brother Gu dodged backwards. Although he had drunk a lot, the immortal martial technique had almost become a part of his body. However, why didn't his foot touch the ground? He lowered his head to look. Damn! Senior Martial Brother Gu. Senior Martial Brother Gu. Senior Martial Brother Gu jumped down by himself. Everyone was dumbstruck. They were extremely shocked. What was going on? The person who had been trying to save Senior Martial Brother Gu was also stupefied. He jumped down by himself. Should I save him or not? Hiss. Xiao Wuchen, Ma Dong, and the others were so scared that they sucked in a breath of cold air. The dignified Elder Gu's stomach was actually forced to jump off the cliff by himself? Run quickly. Xiao Wuchen made a prompt decision to run. If Senior Martial Brother Gu regained his senses, he might be the next Senior Martial Brother Gu. He had to run as fast and as far as he could. Brat, you tricked me? I am also a victim. There were many people on the Jianming Peak, and they were all confused. They secretly asked around to find out who the person who dared to beat up Senior Martial Brother Gu was. The one who was bullied was Senior Martial Brother Gu, and his father was Elder Gu. If they went to the law enforcement hall and said a few words, they would be in big trouble. That junior sister Qing glanced at Zhang Xiu strangely. Back then, she had only met Zhang Xiu in a hurry. She didn't even dare to raise her head when the sovereign was present. It was only when Zhang Xiu raised his head that junior sister Qing was able to see her beautiful countenance. Her eyes were filled with panic, and she didn't know where to look at the sovereign. Therefore, Zhang Xiu was sure that she wouldn't be able to recognize him. I heard that he is new here. What new here? Everyone felt that it was inconceivable. A newcomer actually dared to go against Senior Martial Brother Gu, and even made Senior Martial Brother Gu jump off the cliff by himself. Junior Martial Sister Qing's expression changed. She thought that Zhang Xiu had some powerful backing. What was going on? Seems like he won't be able to escape the law enforcement hall's punishment. He probably has to go to the law enforcement peak. The storm of Zhang Xiu beating Ma Dong had not yet subsided, and there was a new wave. And this time, the one who bullied was the son of an elder. The whole lower three peaks was in an uproar. That afternoon, Shangguan Zhaorong, the other maids, and Li Chong brought the things back to the sect. They cleaned the courtyard in an orderly manner to welcome the new life of Qianqing School. Then, the people from the law enforcement hall came. "You are junior marshal brother Jiang?" Zhang Xiu didn't know the people from the law enforcement hall who were in charge of the lower three peaks. He only knew a few important people in the law enforcement hall. How could he know such a small character? Yes. You caused trouble at Jiaming Peak, kicked Gu Qian off the peak, and caused serious injuries. Pack up and follow us. Everyone in Qianqing School respected and feared the people from the law enforcement hall. The word, go, was simply a judgment. Anyone who heard it would be scared to the ground. But today, when they said the word go, they didn't expect that Zhang Xiu was even more anxious than them. No need to pack up. Let's go quickly. Damn, what was going on? Where is the law enforcement hall going to lock me up? Looking at Zhang Xiu's expectant face, the people from the law enforcement hall felt that they had come to the wrong world. Had the law enforcement hall become a tourist attraction now? Was it so popular? After decades of law enforcement, they had never seen a criminal disciple so eager to go out like a child. They couldn't help but remind him, "The elders have approved to go to the Raging Flames cave to serve your sentence." Really? Zhang Xiu was so happy that he almost jumped up. He still couldn't think of a way to go to the Raging Flames cave. He said excitedly, "Thank you so much." He just wanted to reach out and hold the other party's hand and thank him properly. The other party was stunned again and started doubting life again. "Junior Marshal Brother, we are going to serve our sentence. Do you know about the Raging Flames cave? The flames there burn for a long time. The pain can be imagined. You have to stay there for a long time. Even some seniors with high cultivation are only half alive when they come out. With your realm, you may not be able to come out alive. Why don't you tell the servants something? Tell them if there is anything you haven't told them?" Zhang Xiu said, "No need, no need." "Oh, right. How long will the sentence be?" The other party said, 1 month. Zhang Xiu frowned slightly and muttered, 1 month is a bit short. What? It's too short? The people from the law enforcement hall started doubting life again. "This new junior marshal brother, as your senior marshal brother, I feel that it is necessary to remind you that you are going to be punished." Zhang Xiu said, "That's right. This senior marshal brother, can you help me extend it to 3 months? The other party felt as if something was stuck in his chest. The corner of his mouth twitched unnaturally and he fiercely refused. "No. How dare you look down on the law enforcement hall? I will not agree." Zhang Xiu took out a pill bottle and stuffed it into the other party's hand. "This is a small token of appreciation. Senior marshal brother, don't dislike it. Make an exception. If you can't do 3 months, then help me get 2.5 months. Looking at the pill bottle in his hand, he didn't need to guess to know what was inside. Looking at the pill bottle that everyone cared for, he felt that something in his heart was broken. He grabbed the small porcelain bottle and fiercely threw it to the ground. He angrily said, "Who do you think I am? What kind of place do you think my law enforcement hall is? That you can come and go as you wish and stay as long as you want? Take him away." Li Chong and Shangguan Zhaorong on the side were so nervous that their faces turned pale. They had just arrived and their buttocks hadn't even warmed up yet, but the young master was already taken away to be punished. Chapter 5:15. 300 miles north of Qianqing School, there was a fire heavenly vein. It was said that it was caused by a meteorite. The whole mountain was out of tune with the surrounding mountains. The temperature was extremely high, and all the immortals were of the fire attribute. Even the ground was ablaze. It was one of the 3 places of torture in Tianqing school. It was specially used to punish disciples who violated the rules of the sect. Zhang Xiu's situation was not serious. He didn't even need to be interrogated. He didn't have any objections, so he directly brought the senior brother of the law enforcement hall here. It was really shockingly hot inside. Some of the cracks in the ground would burst into flames from time to time. At a glance, it looked like a barbecue. Even the air seemed to be distorted. People could hear crackling sounds inside, like fire burning dry wood. Junior brother Jiang, this place is good, right? You like it? This was obviously sarcastic remarks. Every disciple who was sent here was crying and begging for mercy to go back. To be honest, such a place was really not suitable for people to stay. But Zhang Xiu's words almost made him collapse. Are you sure you can't stay for 2 more months? What do you think the law enforcement hall is? Blue veins appeared on the forehead of the senior brother of the law enforcement hall, which could explode at any time. The outer core competition is about to begin. Do you want to miss it? Competition. Zhang Xiu had almost forgotten about this. If an outer core disciple wanted to enter the inner core, and if an inner core disciple wanted to become a successor disciple, they had to fight their way out. This was an opportunity for disciples. It was like a major exam. If you did well, you would be promoted. If you didn't, you would have to repeat the year. In fact, Zhang Xiu was also very conflicted. On the one hand, he wanted to find out why his position as the head of the sect was replaced before the 60-year period was up. Then he had to keep moving up. Only those who came in contact with the people above him could know the truth. On the other hand, the higher he went, the more acquaintances he would meet, and the easier it would be to expose his identity. The consequences of exposing his identity were self-evident. This was actually a paradox. However, Zhang Xiu was a person who was very willing to take risks and fight hard. Therefore, from the moment he entered Tianqing school, he decided that he would climb up. Not only did he want to climb up, but he also wanted to be faster, fiercer, and more ruthless than the last time. He wanted Zhang Luoxia to shock Tianqing School and the Immortal Martial Arts Academy once again. He wanted to take back everything he had lost. When the other party said, more than a month later. Zhang Xiu had just entered the sect, so he had no chance of competing in the inner disciple battle in a month's time. However, Zhang Xiu was different. Although he had just entered the sect, he did have a little bit of fame now. For the sake of a place to stay, he had beaten up his senior who was a small realm higher than him. He had even kicked an elder's son down the mountain. Who would dare say that he was not competitive? That was because he couldn't stay in there for too long. If he missed the competition this time, he would have to wait for another 5 years. 5 years was really too long. In the long river of 3,000 years, it was nothing at all. However, he had just returned from Earth. Life was short, so he had to seize every minute. During the outer disciple battle, will the sect leader come back? The other party laughed. Stop dreaming. The outer disciple station elder might not even come. Only when you enter the inner disciple station will you be able to attract the elders or peak leaders. Zhang Xiu of course understood. He was just using this as an excuse. What a pity. Then I won't be able to see the sect leader. Kid, you're quite ambitious. Zhang Xiu asked, does the sect leader accept disciples? The other party laughed. Stop dreaming. The sect leader basically doesn't accept disciples. The current disciples were all accepted before the sect leader became an elder. Since he became the sect leader, he hasn't accepted a single disciple. I don't think he will accept any more in the future. Before becoming an elder? When was that? The other party said, about 50 years ago. Zhang Xiu asked, the previous sect leader, Zhang Luoxia, was known as the #1 genius of the immortal martial sect in the last 1,000 years. Why did he suddenly change? The other party frowned as if thinking about something. He suddenly reacted and said, you're just a small disciple. Why do you care so much? You dare to discuss matters of the sect. Do you really not want to live anymore? Zhang Xiu said, I'm just curious. I'm just asking. Do you know why the sect leader changed? The disciple said, Of course it's because sect leader Zhang has fallen. I heard he was killed. Bullshit. Zhang Xiu almost blurted out. He suppressed his anger and said, Who killed him? The disciple shook his head and said, I don't know. It hasn't been made public yet. Zhang Xiu sneered in his heart. I'm standing right in front of you, alive and kicking. But Zhang Xiu could only swallow these words in his stomach. Greetings, Senior Brother Li. The disciples guarding the blazing flame cave saw that the disciplinary hall had escorted a disciple over. They were all preparatory disciples of the disciplinary hall. Although it was tough now, once they got out, their days would be much better than the normal disciples. This is the new junior brother Zhang Xiu. Because he beat up a fellow disciple, he kicked Gu Qian, who is Elder Gu's son, down the mountain. He was sentenced to 1 month of supervision by the disciplinary hall. Oh. Don't worry, senior brother. Leave it to us. That person finished speaking and turned to leave. In this damned place, staying even a moment longer was unbearable. Once that person left, the disciples guarding the cave revealed their true nature. I don't need to repeat what this place is. This is just an ordinary prison. First of all, you cannot escape. I don't need to explain what kind of crime you will be charged with. Also, during this period of time, there will be no food. Do you understand? Oh. Zhang Xiu said, Can I go in now? And that person stared blankly, looking at Zhang Xiu strangely. He had never seen a criminal disciple rush into a cave. Was that a place for humans to stay? What a weirdo. I haven't finished yet. What are you in such a hurry for? Once you're inside, you have to hand over 5 kilograms of blazing flame every day. After Zhang Xiu entered, he couldn't help but frown. The temperature was high, and the flames burned continuously. The divine power in his body burst forth in an emergency to resist the harsh environment. Most people who came here to be punished would stay in the outermost area, but he would go in deeper. Here he had hidden a handful of heavenly fire. At the time, when he had obtained this heavenly fire, his heavenly fire Tao had almost reached its end. Therefore, it was useless and he couldn't waste it. He had originally wanted to give it to a disciple, so he temporarily kept it here. However, as time passed, he had forgotten about it. He didn't expect it to come in handy now. His heavenly fire was a second-level heavenly fire. With this high-level heavenly fire, his heavenly fire Tao should be able to take a big step forward. Although he might not be able to fully comprehend the heavenly fire Tao, he was confident that he would be able to enter the late stage of lower sky god. However, this time would be a little long. According to Zhang Xiu's previous cultivation, it would be 2 or 3 times longer than before. In the past, it would take more than a year, but now it would take more than 3 months. Therefore, he would need to spend 3 months with that disciple of the Hall of Justice. However, if he wanted to rush before the intersect battles, then he would need to leave within the stipulated time. Therefore, he would need to increase his speed. It's still here. Zhang Xiu went to the depths and used a shovel to pry open the ore on the ground. He saw a burning flame below. There were many types of heavenly fire: ethereal fire, true fire, karmic fire. Based on his experience, this flame was most likely the karmic fire of the heavenly fire. Because its color was very clear, if it was like true fire, there would be more colors. In terms of power, he could feel a threat from it in his previous life. Although there were many types of karmic fire, as long as it used the heavenly fire Tao, it would be enough for Zhang Xiu. Moreover, heavenly fire was too complicated. It was a great Tao. Heavenly fire was very powerful, and its battle prowess when it reached the great perfection was publicly acknowledged. Immediately, he sat down cross-legged and began to absorb and refine the flame. According to his original estimation, it would take more than 3 months. In order to increase his speed, Zhang Xiu once again took out the soul suppression pill. Previously, Jiang Xiu had prepared 2 pills for 3 months. Later, he used up half a month's worth, so he still had 2.5 months' worth of pills left. In his previous life, Jiang Xiu had met a strange Protoss in the Divine Prefecture. That race could clone themselves, which was the so-called outer-body incarnation of immortal cultivators. Of course, Jiang Xiu could not do it, but he had obtained an important technique. After simplifying it again and again, Jiang Xiu could basically use 2 techniques in one body. Although it was only 2 techniques, it was already very heaven-defying. This was not just a case of multitasking, but a case of multitasking. He could now use this secret technique. Chapter 5:16. This was an extremely wonderful secret technique. In order to obtain this secret technique, Jiang Xiu, as the leader of the Qianqing school, had paid a huge price. However, this secret technique was the gift of the Protoss after all. Immortal cultivators had great limitations. It was impossible to use 2 spells in the same body at the same time. However, one had to comprehend the laws of nature, and the other had to strengthen the soul. To comprehend the laws of nature while strengthening the soul stone, one's body and soul were affected by great pain and even hallucinations. This was impossible without separation. As soon as the secret technique was used, Jiang Xiu's whole body was in a state of vibration. In fact, the whole world was vibrating, and so were people. The source of vibration was the heart, which was vibrating at about 70 beats per second. Now, Jiang Xiu's vibration was definitely at a much higher frequency. A person's heart rate exceeded 140 beats, and they were almost dead. At this moment, Jiang Xiu's body was vibrating at least 200 beats per second, and it was still increasing. The Raging Flame Cave was indeed one of the 3 major prisons of the Qianqing school. The flames were fierce and the temperature was extremely high. In such an environment, ordinary air was almost non-existent. Even the spiritual energy was hot, and even breathing became difficult. His divine body had to instinctively resist the heat. What a hellish place! The cave guard outside shook his body. Although the high-frequency vibration caused all the magnetic fields in the surroundings to change, the range of the vibration was a little beyond the normal human perception. The cave guard didn't feel it, but his body felt uncomfortable. Many people would encounter bottlenecks in the process of cultivation. This was caused by the individual's body. After causing this reason, the most obvious manifestation was the stagnation of the spiritual power in the body. Jiang Xiu didn't have a special physique when he was tested in the Qianqing school. The so-called special physique was summed up according to the cultivation experience of predecessors. At what level would one's spiritual power stagnation occur? Some people might encounter it when they were Earth Immortals, some in Sky Immortals, and some in Middle Sky Immortals. As for Jiang Xiu, ever since he started cultivating until he became an immortal king, he hadn't appeared even once. Even now, he still didn't know where his limits were. Originally, it should be said that his physique should be very outstanding, but it just so happened that his physique was very ordinary. The heavenly fire laws contained within the karmic fire exceeded Jiang Xiu's expectations. The content contained within shocked him greatly. Although it could allow him to further perfect the heavenly fire laws that he had finally comprehended, the large amount of content that needed to be comprehended slowed him down. This gave him a sense of urgency. On the other hand, after using the soul-binding pellet, the speed at which his soul increased was much faster than when he used the Sex Divine Soul pellet in his previous life. It was estimated that the strength of his soul would reach the strength of a late lower heavenly deity after 7 days. 7 days later, his soul strength had reached the required level, but his comprehension of the heavenly fire laws had slowed down, and the growth of his godhead had slowed down as well. His soul's strength was still a little lacking. Due to the restriction of his realm, he couldn't increase his soul's strength. He could only cultivate the heavenly fire laws. Therefore, he restrained the secret technique of using 2 people at once and focused on comprehending the heavenly fire laws. Jiang Xiu was very eager to have a law that could cultivate his soul's strength. He had mastered a few soul-type spells, and their power was limited. Moreover, this was already the secret technique of the Qianqing school's sect master. He couldn't use it. Once he used it, he would lose his path. In addition, some geniuses could create soul-type spells. However, Zhang Xiu's talent in creation seemed to be limited. In his previous life, he had spent a lot of effort, but he hadn't made much progress. According to legend, soul-type cultivation techniques could break through the restrictions of one's realm. They could cultivate one's soul to become very powerful at a very low realm. However, soul-type cultivation techniques were very rare. In the entire immortal martial arts world, they only existed in legends. Otherwise, Zhang Xiu would have gotten his hands on them no matter what and no matter the price. It would be great if I had a soul-type cultivation technique. Even without this kind of cultivation technique, Zhang Xiu still had a great advantage compared to the other Qianqing school disciples. He didn't have to worry about formations, talismans, spells, secret techniques, and so on. He already knew all of these. Knowledge couldn't be taken away by the fate technique. He could focus all his energy on breaking through his realm. This gave him a lot of time to cultivate. Boy, boy! Someone was shouting outside. According to the rules, Zhang Xiu had to hand in 5 kilograms of fire every day. Zhang Xiu had stayed in the cave for 10 days, so he had to hand in 50 kilograms of fire. Originally, he had to hand in 50 kilograms of fire every day. However, when they came several times, Zhang Xiu didn't answer them. They also didn't see him at the entrance of the cave. Because the flames in the cave were too unbearable, they didn't come in. However, it had been 10 days in a row. They were a little worried that Zhang Xiu might have escaped. They could only brace themselves and come in. Junior brother Zhang. A voice came from afar. It was very anxious. If Zhang Xiu escaped, it would be a big crime. However, they would also be guilty of negligence. The flames were too strong. They couldn't follow him to the depths. He can't have really escaped, right? It can't be. The 2 cave guards looked sad. How could they be so unlucky? However, they had been at the entrance of the cave and hadn't left. How could they not notice that someone had escaped? How did he escape? Zhang Xiu vaguely heard the voice. He knew that the cave guards outside were probably worried that he would escape and specially came in to check. For an immortal cultivator, passing through walls was a simple escape technique. However, in this kind of place, ordinary people couldn't escape by using ordinary escape techniques. In the eyes of immortal cultivators, the relationship between humans and space was completely different from the relationship between mortals and space. Before becoming a celestial king, Zhang Xiu also didn't understand the relationship between his existence and space. It had even reached the extent of comprehending the laws of the world. This was because he still didn't understand what kind of existence he was. Therefore, there was no way for him to form a connection. In the past, Zhang Xiu's escape techniques only floated on the surface. It wasn't until he became a celestial king that he understood that space wasn't a straight line. It was just that he couldn't find the path of another dimension. However, escape techniques could. This was the essence of escape techniques. After becoming a celestial king, Zhang Xiu discovered that there was an extremely small but incomparably huge existence in this world. It was so huge that it was simply unimaginable. And this kind of energy was discovered by the smart humans on Earth before countless heavenly gods. Moreover, they even created an extremely terrifying and powerful weapon, the atomic bomb. And celestial kings could discover even more energy that existed in the void, which was even smaller and more powerful. And as a celestial god, Zhang Xiu also tried his best to discover the existence of this kind of energy. It was just like how humans couldn't hear sounds that exceeded their own hertz. They couldn't discover it at all. He could only wait for the day he became a celestial king. And to escape from a place like this, one had to be a great celestial immortal of Heavenly Fire Avenue, or at least a celestial king. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiu's comprehension of the heavenly fire laws suddenly sped up. Many of the laws that he didn't understand connected together. Without warning, he entered a state of epiphany. This kind of opportunity was harder to come by. Of course, Zhang Xiu wouldn't stop just because these two had entered the cave to find him. Oh no, there really isn't. Should we report it to the Hall of Justice? If they reported it, they'd be punished. If they didn't report it, they'd be punished even more. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. What should we do? There's no other way. We can't let a disciple who made a mistake escape because we're afraid of taking responsibility. In the end, they decided to wait. At the very least, they'd wait until the end of their sentence. But what they didn't expect was that 10 days later, the entire cave began to shake like never before. It rumbled like a volcano was about to erupt. What's going on? This hadn't happened in thousands of years. It seems to be coming from inside the cave. They looked inside and saw that the flames in the cave were much fiercer than before. It was as if someone had added firewood to the fire, causing it to burn even more fiercely. The flames almost covered the entire cave, and they felt that the power of the fire had increased by a large margin. It can't be a fire demon spirit, can it? Boom! A violent shockwave rushed out from inside. From the cave entrance, they felt an irresistible gust of wind and fire blow at them. It sent them flying. Amidst the flames stood a dark shadow. Chapter 5:17. You. Seeing the shadow slowly walk out of the cave, the two guards widened their eyes, their hearts filled with shock. The only person who could be in the cave could only be him, but this movement, this aura, he was no longer a mid-stage lower heavenly deity. Advanced. There was only one explanation for this. Impossible. Their voices were filled with disbelief. Surviving in that kind of environment was already very difficult, but he still had the energy to cultivate, and finally broke through. Jiang Xiu walked out of the flames. His entire body seemed to be covered in flames, as if the flames had become a part of his body. The wind and fire were formless, but the spirit had form. His eyes were incomparably proud and cold. He opened his mouth and said, "Exactly 1 month, not 1 day more, not 1 day less. Can I go now?" The two guards crawled up from the ground and said, "You were in there, you scared us, it was a false alarm, a false alarm." "All right, the date is here, you can go after signing here." When Jiang Xiu signed his name, one of them suddenly remembered and said, "Oh right, you have to dig 300 pounds of ore a month, where is the ore you dug?" Bang! Jiang Xiu flung his hand, and a full 300 pounds of ore fell to the ground. Not long after, Jiang Xiu appeared in his own courtyard. When he first arrived, Jiang Xiu had been locked up for an entire month without even staying for a night. During this month, the servants had gone to all the places they could go, and had adapted well, and the house was also tidy and orderly. "Young master, you're finally back." Shangguan Zhao Rong and the other servants saw that Jiang Xiu had returned, and were extremely happy. Shangguan Zhao Rong knew that he must have been tortured without food, so she welcomed him into the house, brewed some spirit tea, and went to prepare something to eat. Jiang Gu. Hearing that Jiang Xiu had returned, Wu Zhankui, who had been in the sect for a month, came to visit. Yes. He knew that Jiang Xiu treated people coldly, but he didn't mind. Seeing Jiang Xiu casually point at him, he sat down across from him and said, "Jiang Gu, you must have suffered a lot in there. Sai, we've just arrived, so we should keep a low profile and behave ourselves." Jiang Xiu took a sip of tea and felt refreshed. He had been burned in the fire for a whole month and felt like he was about to turn into a mummy. "You came here just to tell me this?" Wu Zhankui said, "That's not it. Jiang Gu probably doesn't know yet. The inner disciple assessment has begun, and it's very lively right now. I don't know if Jiang Gu will participate." At this time, Shangguan Zhao Rong brought the food over. Seeing Wu Zhankui's unnatural expression, she frowned. Jiang Xiu didn't care about the guests and started eating. He should. "I plan to participate as well. Of course, it doesn't matter if I pass or not. We've just entered the sect, so the main thing is to accumulate experience. Sometimes experience is more important than strength." Wu Zhankui said, "When the time comes, we'll go together." The two of them were considered to be of the same level, so they should have a close relationship. However, Jiang Xiu's personality was cold and not easy to get along with. Moreover, this trial lasted for a month. Yes. Wu Zhankue said, I also heard some things. I heard that many seniors, in order to pass the inner disciple assessment, took the liquid golden pill. This kind of pill can greatly increase one's strength, even doubling or tripling it. Unfortunately, the side effects are too great. It will cause one's spiritual power to stagnate, and there is no possibility of it increasing within a year. Jiang Xiu glanced at him and heard him say, Jiang Ge, are you interested? Jiang Xiu said, I don't need it. This kind of pill can cause more than stagnation of spiritual power. It can basically destroy a person's immortal bones and cause their golden core to be covered in dust forever. From then on, their golden core will become deformed. However, there are many short-sighted disciples among the ordinary disciples. Many people take pills for temporary benefits. Wu Zhankue said, the rewards for passing the inner disciple assessment are very tempting. Even if you don't pass, the rewards for being at the top of the list are also very good. Jiang Xiu didn't continue. The two of them didn't have anything to talk about. Shangguan Zhao Rong once again served Jiang Xiu food. The sword cultivator noticed that Wu Zhankue was looking at Shangguan Zhao Rong with a strange gaze. Wu Zhankue said softly, Jiang Ge, I have a request. Speak. Wu Zhankue blinked. I really like your servant girl. Jiang Ge, can you part with her and give her to me? As for the conditions, how about 10 life pills? 10 life pills were a month's worth of resources for an outer disciple of Qianxing school. Perhaps in his eyes, a servant girl, an ordinary servant girl, was not worth much. If placed in an ordinary dynasty, she could be bought with a few hundred taels of silver or gold. He thought that taking out 10 life pills was very sincere. At this time, Shangguan Zhao Rong came to deliver food again. Now, she brought up every dish that was cooked in the kitchen. Even so, it wasn't enough for Jiang Xiu. Zhao Rong, this heavenly immortal Wu has taken a liking to you and wants you to go over. Shangguan Zhao Rong's delicate body trembled as she looked at Jiang Xiu in astonishment. Are you willing? Wu Zhankue looked at Shangguan Zhao Rong expectantly, hoping that she would agree. The normal answer was to listen to the young master's arrangements. However, Shangguan Zhao Rong firmly said, I'm not willing. Wu Zhankue said, Miss Shangguan, don't be in a hurry to refuse. If you come to my side, I will treat you sincerely and support your cultivation. I will even help you walk the path of the golden core. I will even go to the sect to learn a dual cultivation technique and cultivate with you. This kind of future was very tempting, especially cultivation. This was the only way to truly change one's fate. If one's talent was outstanding, one might even become a powerhouse one day. Shangguan Zhao Rong said again with certainty, I'm not willing. She looked at Wu Zhankue with disgust. Jiang Xiu said, he's right. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. Think about it. If you stay with me, I won't support your cultivation. There's no future for you. Shangguan Zhao Rong said, Zhao Rong is indebted to the young master. Zhao Rong swears that I will do my best to take care of the young master. Unless, the young master wants to swap Zhao Rong out. Even so, Zhao Rong has no complaints. These words were very touching. If it was a normal person, they would definitely be moved. However, Cheng Lingren's lesson made it hard for Jiang Xiu to believe that Shangguan Zhao Rong's persistence was only because the temptation wasn't enough. Wu Zhankue was just an ordinary disciple. If it was an elder's son or even an elder himself, perhaps the result would be different. Of course, people always hoped for beautiful things to happen. Jiang Xiu also hoped that what Shangguan Zhao Rong said was true. Since she's not willing, then forget it. Wu Zhankue anxiously frowned and said, Jiang Ge, could it be that you think 10 life pills is too little? Jiang Xiu said, people are priceless. His values were still different from those of them who were born and raised in immortal martial arts. Don't mention this matter again. Also, I'm warning you, don't have any ideas about Zhao Rong. If I find out, I'll cut you down. Zhang Xiu turned hostile as soon as he said so. No matter how unwilling Wu Zhankui was, there was nothing he could do. Facing a demon like Zhang Xiu, he was really afraid. Since it's like this, then I'll leave first. Tomorrow, we'll go participate in the inner sect exam together. When Shangguan Zhaorong came in again, Zhang Xiu carefully looked at her and said, "When we have time, I'll take you to the sect to test your physique." When Wu Zhankui mentioned dual cultivation, Zhang Xiu felt that it was very strange. He felt that Shangguan Zhaorong might have a special physique. "Young master wants to take me to test my physique. Didn't young master say that he wouldn't support my cultivation?" Zhang Xiu said, "I'm just curious." Shangguan Zhaorong revealed a smile. When she smiled, it was even more lively than when she wasn't smiling. It made people think of the phrase, "a smile that could topple a city." It was very attractive. Zhang Xiu secretly thought that she was indeed a one-in-a-million beauty. No wonder that big guy liked her. It doesn't matter if Zhao Rong can cultivate or not. But God Li is a sky immortal. He needs cultivation resources. Young master has been gone for a month and hasn't even gone to the sect to collect the resources. Zhang Xiu said, "I forgot about that." Zhang Xiu really didn't care about the resources of the outer sect disciples. However, it should be distributed to the servants. How could the former sect master not know how to control his subordinates? Wait until the inner sect exam is over. Shangguan Zhaorong said, "I'll listen to young master's arrangements." Her face was very bright. Zhang Xiu rejecting Wu Zhankui made her very happy. "Zhaorong, let Xiaoyu cook a few more dishes." You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.